All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Rick, let us know when we are live.
We got to wait.
Do you read the Open Public Meetings Act announcement, or do I just go into my discussion?
I'll cue you when to go, Janice.
Okay, good.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all at home for joining us. This is a Township Council conference meeting for December 7th, 2021. This is a conference meeting of the Council of the Township of Montclair and is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live on the Montclair TV 34 YouTube channel. It is available on demand and can and will be rebroadcast. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. This meeting was included in the revised annual notice. The meeting schedule is set forth in R2165, adopted by the Council at its conference meeting on August 11th, advertised in the official newspaper on the 19th, posted in the bulletin boards outside the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted. In addition, a copy of the revised annual notice has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the clerk. Everyone, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Without objection, we've got the agenda with flexibility. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Counselor Cummings,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Present.
Counselor Price Abrams,
present.
Counselor Russo,
Present.
Counselor Schlager,
Here.
Counselor Yacovellis,
Present.
Mayor Spiller.
Present. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to move into our 2021 Community Development Block Grant. That's why we're starting a little bit early for those at home. We're moving into that. We hear for a number of the different entities and projects and programs that are obviously seeking some of that funding. Always, I think, an interesting time for us as the council. We know there's many worthwhile things that we all need to focus on and try to get funding for. So we'll have that tonight, and that will be led by Janice Talley, who will help facilitate that CDBG application process. So Janice, I'm going to turn it over to you with that, please.
Great, thank you. We have not received our official 2022 CDBG allocation from HUD. We do understand that funding levels are expected to be about the same for CDBG in 2022. So in the past, we've received about $320,000, part of which goes to municipal projects, part of which is set aside for nonprofit agencies that provide services to low and moderate income households in Montclair. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to hear from the nonprofit service agencies about the programs and projects that they have planned for 2022 and the project, how they expect to use the money. So what I will do is what you see on the screen right now is the summary of the applications that the township received from the different agencies. We have 8 of them. What I'll do is bring on board representatives from each of the agencies to discuss these. In your packet, I included a score sheet. I believe I also emailed it to everybody prior to this evening's meeting. What I'll need you to do is to fill in, rank these different organizations and send that back to me at the end of this evening so that I can, and everybody will have 20 points that they can allocate among the different applications that are being presented tonight. At the end, I will tally those points and prepare a prioritized resolution for the council to adopt at the next meeting that shows how you'd like to see these projects funded to the county. So first up tonight, we have Family Promise of Essex County, and Tia Airy from Family Promise is here to present her project. So Tony, can you make Tia?
Yes, she is.
Okay, good. So Tia, you can turn on your microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you, Janice, and thank you, Mayor Spiller and council members for having me here. I'm glad to have this opportunity to speak to you. I think Janice explained that Family Promise of Essex County was formerly known as the Interfaith Hospitality Network of Essex County. And we've been in operation in Essex County since 1987. Our mission is to help homeless and at-risk families achieve self-sufficiency by providing shelter, social services, and housing assistance through a community-based approach. In 2009, some of you may remember, we moved our offices and resource center from South Orange to Central Presbyterian Church on Park Street in Montclair. And we were warmly received by the church and this community. And we have continued to develop our relationships in the Montclair community over time. CDBG funding has typically provided funding that covers a portion of the salaries of our social service staff. And we have been able to expand our staff this year. In 2021, CDBG funding coupled with private funding, actually from a very generous Montclair resident, allowed us to assist more than a dozen Montclair households with things like back rent, utility payments, car payments, and such, so that they could maintain their housing and employment. We have applied for funding this year. We are excited to say that we're expanding our relationships with some of the other providers in Montclair. Actually, starting next week, we will have a case manager because we have more staff that we can do this now. We'll be on site at Tony's Kitchen to provide case management, outreach, and linkage to other services within the community. And we will have a case manager there once a week from 9 to 12. And we're really excited about that partnership. In addition, Tony's Kitchen is able to provide some meals and support for our shelter program, which serves residents from all over Essex County. I mean, Family Promise provides services to Essex County residents. So our work goes beyond Montclair, but we have, as I say, expanded services within Montclair itself. We have also, in partnership with HomeCore, and HomeCore approached us because they had several families that had fallen behind in rent on their affordable housing units in the past year. And so we've been trying to work with those families to help pay with some back rent that would actually assist HomeCore. And we are partnering with HomeCore to provide families for 2 of the set-aside units at the Sylvan Place development. So that's another partnership that we're really grateful for and enjoy. We hope that this funding will be able to expand our services within Montclair. Do you have any questions for me? Anything else I can answer?
I'm not seeing any hands. Although a little bit different screen format, so somebody speak if you are, but I don't see any hands.
Mayor, yes. Good evening.
Yeah.
It's-
Okay. Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Hi, Ms. Lori Price Abrams, and I just wanted to mention that I have engaged through my congregation with what was IHN and Family Promise, and know the program well, and just appreciate the work that you and your predecessors have done in the community for the people and families most in need, among the families most in need. So just, I have a longer version, which I was sort of reading along as you were speaking. And if you could just pull out is there something that's a new element? Is the 48 persons and 16 households that you're helping, is there something that's a particularly new initiative, or is it part of the fabric of how you provide the services that you provide, and just, the CDBG funding that you have perhaps gotten in the past?
we will be able to expand services. And part of that is because, as I say, we've been able to match private funding with the funding that we receive through CDBG, which really pays for our staff. You know, we couldn't get this funding out on the street without the funding for our staff. But we have direct assistance funding from a private donor, actually.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's been a big expansion. And we anticipate that this new connection, which we're just starting next week at Tony's Kitchen, will also increase our outreach efforts in Montclair. Oh, and I didn't mention that we are partnering with United Way of Northern New Jersey will be a tax preparation drop-off center. And from what I understand from United Way, the previous facility had to close. So we will be the only facility in Montclair providing that service to low-income households.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Other questions? Seeing none, on behalf of all of us, definitely want to thank you so much for the work that you do. We appreciate it as the impact we know that you have, and part of the fabric that we all aim to support to make sure we can best care for and help all of our residents and those in the greater area, of course. So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, Councilwoman Schlegel.
Thank you. I have a question for Ms. Talley.
Yes.
Sure.
In the past, we used to get packets for each of these organizations that had their budgets for the year, or their, you know, this, you know, I mean, the list is very good that we have right now and informative, but so I guess, are we not going to do, is that the process anymore?
Well, not every organization gave me a full budget. So if you want additional information, reach out to me and I can send it to you, what they submitted. We had a compressed time frame to get this information together for the council. So
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So next up is Succeed Together, and tonight we have Cynthia Kate. I think I pronounced your name right. I hope I did. Here on behalf of Succeed Together.
Cynthia, please unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. A little trouble there. There's never been a time in recent town history when the children from mid to low income families have been in greater need of Succeed Together more than they do right now. The pandemic had forced Montclair schools to put all our classes online. However, some mid to low income children in our community had little to no access to adequate technology to even view these classes, or they didn't have adults at home to ensure compliance that they're watching the classes. National studies have reported the overall gross inadequacy of virtual learning, and local anecdotal evidence has borne that out. Our public schools are currently overwhelmed with trying to deal with these issues. Succeed Together has requested $25,000 in CDBG grant money to help us aid our community's mid and low-income families and children in this crisis. We need this grant money to create a meaningful, well-thought-out support infrastructure complete with staff of the highest quality for these children. We will be utilizing the dollars from our CDBG grant to expand current programs both in depth and in breadth, and help fund new ones that fill in areas and populations that our current programs are not yet serving. We want to locate those students who have gotten lost in the system to give them the opportunity to learn and grow, and we need your help in order to do so. We are planning a community outreach campaign that will send teams into Montclair neighborhoods that would benefit most from our services to make families within our targeted demographics aware of our free classes, one-on-one tutoring, and training. We have partnered with and will continue to connect with other local nonprofits to discuss how we can work together to most effectively and efficiently meet the needs of the children in our town. Succeed Together is expanding our after-school training program with a partnership with the YMCA and a new pilot after-school care program initiating school 2022. If this pilot program proves successful, we will be expanding the program to other schools in Montclair in 2023. Then there is the new and innovative Pathways Forward program designed to mentor students one-on-one beginning in 8th grade through what is effectively the 13th grade, the year after the student's graduation from high school. The very same paired mentor will be working with the same student throughout these years, helping to guide them through the formulation of goals and development of skills necessary to build a viable roadmap for their future, whether it be in college or in vocational training. Integrated within the Pathways Forward program in the early years will be career workshops, class selection, time management, goal setting, and academic tutoring. In the later time frame will be test prep, college essay writing, college application help, financial aid guidance, career training, and most importantly, transition and first-year post-secondary support for all. The program will include quarterly group meetings, workshops, instructional sections for both the student and their family, as well as one-on-one subject tutoring where needed. We anticipate that 25 individuals will be enrolled into Pathways Forward by the end of 2022, with 50 individuals enrolled by the end of 2023. The possibilities for Pathways Forward are endless, and the results for this revolutionary mentoring and training program are unquantifiable. We are asking this CDBG grant money to cover a portion of the program director's salary. Immediate and meticulously planned action is necessary to provide the requisite educational support to the children from mid to low income families within Montclair. Succeed Together can do that with the help of the CDBG grant. And I want to thank the council right now for the opportunity to present our new and expanded Succeed Together programs. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions from the council? Okay. Not seeing any hands come up. Also want to say a big thank you for everything you do within our community, quite frankly, and beyond. Thank you for your service to this, and certainly we hope we can help support in any way possible. Thank you.
Okay, next on our presentation list is Montclair Neighborhood Development Corporation, and we have the Reverend Craig Dunn here to present on behalf of that organization.
Good evening, Ms. Talley. Good evening, Mayor Spiller and the Town Council.
Good evening.
He's going to be good.
My name is Craig Dunn. I'm the new Executive Director of Montclair Neighborhood Development Corporation in light of the recently passing of Mr. Albert Pelham. MNDC has been in existence. This is our 52nd year in Montclair. 1969, we started at 228 Bloomfield Avenue, our current location, and we've been servicing the low-income, HUD-eligible population for the past 52 years. We have a strong presence in the community, and with your assistance through this funding, we're looking to continue the programs we have, revamp our programs, and expand our programs. As you heard previously, the pandemic did impact the educational landscape of our community. However, MNDC was able to respond to the lack of technology in homes with our remote learning center at the Wally Choice Community Center that we had there for students who didn't have home access to internet or computers. Currently, our Project Oasis summer program has 69 young people in the program last summer, and we're looking to expand the offerings this year as we move forward into 2022 and 23. Our homework help program, right now we have about 9 students in there, but behind a recent board meeting that we had with the superintendent and the principals in Montclair High, we're going to expand that program because one of the things we looked at is students who live in the neighborhood around Glenfield Park, but go to schools in Bradford and Watchung and Northeast that live in that area. We're going to make the information available to them which will increase our enrollment as far as that concerned. So the CDBG money would help us to expand our services in terms of staffing and programming. One of the things that I'm excited about for 22-23 is our entrepreneurial program. We've been speaking with President Montclair State and other people in the community to expand the entrepreneurial program to teach young people to open up and start businesses, whether it's cyber business or online businesses, which online businesses are just businesses in the community. We met yesterday with an organization who can teach our young people to do music engineering and those things. We're also looking to develop a coding program, teach our young people to do coding, because we're going to expand our computer offerings at the Glenfield Park House from the current number of computers we have now to about 30 computers going forward. So this money will help us develop our programming and to improve the quality of life for the people in the community. Having lived here most of my life, I understand the value of education and the value of MNDC. Any questions?
Questions from the council? I don't see hands. Okay, I don't see any hands. Thank you also so much for the presentation. Thank you for all you do. We appreciate you, and hopefully we can get some funding to help support as well. Thank you.
Okay, next we have COPE Center, and we have a new executive director, a program supervisor. His name is George Smith.
Good evening, everyone. With my time here tonight, I want to talk to you about sustainability and how sustainability is important to the recovery of the people that we serve. When our clients come to us, they're struggling with an array of barriers, including addiction, mental health, co-occurring, employment, and housing. Our goal at COPE is to remove those barriers so we can achieve sustainability and promote healthy growth. We take a total team approach to remove those barriers. The counselors work with the clients and individuals in groups and individual sessions to tackle the addiction and the co-occurring issues. In 2018, we opened the co-occurring program at COPE that's located in St. Luke's Church, where we can treat the clients who have a more severe mental health than our traditional clients. Now, the key to our program is our peer recovery support specialists who work with clients with employment and housing issues while building external support through AA and NA. Our recovery support specialists are tied to the community and have the latest resources for housing. We have one of our recovery support specialists attending the CEASE meeting every month to get the latest information. Our recovery specialists are unique because they can work with our clients in the community. They can take the client to look for housing. They can take them to a shelter. They can take them to a job interview. They can give them that added support to achieve sustainability. With our program our co-occurring program located in St. Luke's, we also have at St. Luke's, we also have an agreement with Tony's Kitchen. They help us provide food for our groups. And they also, we have an agreement with them to use their auditorium, which is a big enough space where we can attend groups safely during the pandemic. We've noticed that when our clients are achieving sustainability early in treatment, they have a better chance of successful recovery. To give you an example, we had an adult, I'll call T. He came to us when he was struggling with everything that I mentioned prior, with all those barriers, employment, housing, etc. He was able to maintain his abstinence, and his sustainability after that started by getting him an ID. A recovery support specialist took him to get his license, and from that sustainability of getting his license, he was able to find a job and find permanent housing on his own. We recently had an adolescent here that was right here in Montclair, who was living with her grandmother and her sister, and we found sustainability with her by utilizing the entire family as part of her treatment. Her sister ended up taking co-occurring classes through us, and her grandmother began attending parenting groups. So what we would like to do with the money that we have is to continue that what we're doing by creating sustainability and expand on what how we've been helping the clients. Thank you.
Also want to thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions? Don't see any. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And again, hopefully we can support in some way. Janice?
Yeah, next we have a presentation from Cynthia Walker regarding S.O.F.I.A, which is Start Out Fresh Intervention Advocates. She did provide a brochure, a handout, which I'm going to pull up.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good evening, Mayor Spiller and the entire Township Council, Janice and staff. Thank you, Janice. We did provide some exhibits for you to review. I'm nervous. I always say that. But anyway, I'm here to thank you for your support to S.O.F.I.A for the past 5 or so or more years. We are able to provide most motivational and financial empowerment workshops through our Soar to Success program, which helps build independence for the clients that we serve, which are domestic violence victims and the survivors and their family members. A lot of times, the family members of the victims are also affected, and they lose their self-esteem. They lose their focus on life, basically. So we do everything we can, and we provide a variety of workshops that helps build the self-esteem, gives them the skills to go back into the world to become self-sufficient and positive. We also provide a number of services to domestic violence victims and survivors, but our primary focus is our outreach programs, which we go out into the community. We talk to schools, colleges, youth groups, organizations on how to have healthy versus unhealthy relationships, and with the hopes of them growing into a well-meaning adult, thus eradicating domestic violence. We also have another program which we started since COVID-19 called the We Care program, where we provide all necessities, cleaning supplies, masks, gloves, detergent, anything that is a necessity since we've had the COVID outbreak. Not only do we have clients pick up, but we deliver to their homes as well. We deliver to the ones that are partnered with us through the Safe House. So we offer a variety of programs. We're looking to expand to help each one individually with life skills, and also to provide laptops so they can become self-sufficient. And I want to just mention that the Google Suite workshop that we do with the Soar to Success program is helping the clients tremendously, just basically learn how to set up an email account, how to do a Word document, how to do an Excel spreadsheet. So that Google Suite workshop, I would love to actually offer it more often throughout the next grant cycle. Janice, if you could scroll down a little bit, there is a list of the workshops that we do. If you could go the other way, that we provide with, there it is. Those are the workshops and the topics, a basic topic of what we do with the Soar to Success program. Building credit, we teach couponing one-on-one. Some people have a very limited source of income. We do art therapy to help with the emotional side. And that's just a few of the programs that we offer with the Soar to Success program. Again, my name is Cynthia Walker. I want to thank everyone for listening tonight, and thank you so much for your ongoing support. We appreciate the funding that we've received, and I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Cynthia.
Cynthia.
Any questions?
Yes,
for
Mayor Cynthia.
Councilman Russo?
Yes.
You know, I'm a big supporter all these years. I just missed the last walk and I wasn't able to do that because I had a car accident. So,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You okay?
yeah, I'll be all right. But, you know, I'll be back to walking next time, but I still owe you something from that. I just
Oh,
want to
thank
apologize
you.
and tell you I'm still supporting, even though I missed this year.
Thank you. Thank
Keep
you.
up the good work. Keep up the good work for domestic violence.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Just 2 more seconds. I forgot to mention that the additional funding that we received last year, thank you so much. We were able to offer private therapy and counseling sessions for our clients. So we're looking forward to serving again with this grant period coming up, these private sessions, which is helping tremendously with the healing process so they could build independence and become self-sufficient. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. We appreciate all the work that you do. And certainly, you know, we know how important the work is as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Joe Davis, who's here on behalf of Strategic Mentoring, also known as Brother to Brother. I think he's here. Joe, are you here?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, panel. Again, I wanted to thank you, the council, for this time this evening. Thank you for hearing us. Just a little background on Brother to Brother Mentoring. We've been in existence now for a little more than 14 years. We service young men of all ethnicities, 4th through 12th grade, mainly focusing on the underserved, as we know the education is paramount. We provide, our role and goal is to provide a safe space, nurturing positive relationships, character building, and helping to develop the leadership skills of our young men. We meet at 11 Pine Street on Tuesday evenings with the 4th and the 8th grade coming in at 5:30 p.m. and our 9th through 12th grade at 6:30 p.m. And even during COVID, we held our meetings remotely, so we were able to keep those meetings intact. Our mentors come from all walks of life, including police officers, detectives, businessmen, firemen, teachers, counselors, and some physicians. We even have some mentors who have started as young men themselves and went on to college and are now back volunteering and mentoring our young men, providing the assistance that we need. Some of our off-campus trips and fundraisers that we've done over the years, we visited a number of museums, volunteered at the Community Food Bank, New York Stock Exchange visits. We do various activities like hikes and bowling, fitness challenges, and our paramount event is the Father's Day breakfast that we do in June. And that also includes a number of cases where we did some volunteering at Tony's Kitchen. Our topics that are discussed include bullying, social and emotional awareness, alcohol and drug abuse, STEM topics, race and racism, financial literacy, healthy eating, domestic violence, and we have clubs that young men also participate in, chess club, computer training. And in addition to that, we provide scholarships to our young men, book scholarships to help them to further their education, to help them as they enter higher learning. And we recommend our young men for programs and careers in law enforcement, public speaking, entrepreneurship, healthcare, and have affiliations with the Urban League and 100 Black Men, and some of our young men are enrolled in their programs as well. But the grant funding that we are seeking today will go towards salary, staffing for consultants, and our executive director. So we greatly appreciate you considering us for this grant. I hope that I included the information that you needed. And are there any further questions?
Okay, any questions? I'm looking. All right, I don't see any, so I'll also say thank you so much. Appreciate all that you do, and hopefully we're able to provide some support. But thank you very much.
Okay, finally, actually, no, we have two more presentations. On behalf of Sister to Sister, we have Evelyn Gay. We'll discuss their project.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Evelyn Gay, and I'm the acting president of the Sister to Sister of Montclair's board. Sister to Sister is an after-school mentoring program for young women in Montclair's public schools, grade 4 through 12. The 144 pre-COVID students we serve predominantly live in the 4th Ward. They predominantly come from families, well, they will be the first to go to college. They qualify for free and reduced lunch. And as such, they are the students who are most likely to fall into the achievement gap, which Montclair readily acknowledges exists in our public schools. To serve our students, we provide them with professional men and women who give them mentoring and counseling, take them on college tours and cultural activities, provide academic support, talk to them with strategies, provide them with strategies for dealing with bullying, dating, and domestic violence, and healthy eating strategies. Last year, we actually had to provide grief counseling, which was very successful. And we also had a student who started Montclair State University in her senior year, but this fall, her funding fell through. And while that was being taken care of at the state level, one of our alumni provided her with funds to cover her tuition, room, and board. And last year, in spite of not being able to meet with our students in person, Sister to Sister provided our seniors with SAT prep and college application assistance. And we are proud to say that all 12 of our seniors from last year are now thriving in college. In fact, 98% of the girls that we have served since 1998 have gone on to college, and all have graduated. So this year, as we have done in previous years when we haven't been successful, we are asking for CDBG funding to continue our activities and actually to take up the slack that we have had. Some of our funders had emergency funding that they had to give out because of COVID, and were not able to give us the funding that we have depended on in previous years. So that is about the extent of my presentation. Are there any questions about Sister to Sister?
Any questions? Seeing none, I want to say thank you very much as well. Thank you for all that you do, and hopefully we're able to support in some way. Thank you so much.
And our final presenter this evening will be Stanley White, presenting on behalf of the Neighborhood Council, Inc. Mr. White, I think you're muted. Now you're unmuted.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good evening. My name is Stanley White. I'm the president of the Neighborhood Council Incorporated. With me tonight is also Victor Deming, the treasurer of the Neighborhood Council. I will begin by giving you a brief history of the site, and Victor will follow with details about the application for funding for a new roof. In the early 1920s, the Junior League started the use of 50 Maple Avenue as a site for community service. Some of the services included immigrants were assisted in preparation for citizenship. The Montclair Health Department was first located on these premises. There was also a daycare center for assisting working parents. In 1946, the Junior League signed ownership of the facility to the Neighborhood Council Incorporated. Sometime thereafter, the late Miss Ann Coleman became president of the Neighborhood Council. She remained president until her death in 2011. Fortunately, I had driven Ms. Coleman to many of the county evening award ceremonies for CBT grants. It gave me an opportunity to learn some of what I'm now facing as a successor. In the 1970s, under Ms. Coleman's guidance, the council purchased the adjacent building at 48 Maple Avenue. With government funding and under the direction of Martin Dassa and his architectural firm, the two buildings were connected to form the structure that exists currently today. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Victor Deming, who's going to discuss the application proposal for a new roof.
Yes, good evening. The mission of the Neighborhood Council is to remain a vital force in the Montclair community. Stanley mentioned Martin Dassa. In the early days, Mr. Dassa was a very, very important member of the board. And one of the things that he was able to do, now that we had the two buildings and no money, was to get qualified people to come in to do patchwork. So that has continued for quite some time. Now we are faced with a situation where there is a need for a new roof. And we are looking to the CDBG funding to help us in that endeavor. There is, again, two roofs. We have a vendor who has provided us with a number that comes to approximately $57,000 to replace both roofs. And it's going to, they will guarantee at least a 15-year life. Is there anything else? Any questions?
All right, any questions? Councilwoman Price Abrams?
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the presentation. Mindful that we never quite have all the funds we need to support all the institutions who so validly deserve these dollars. I'm wondering, is it possible if we weren't able to give you the entire amount, could you use the part? In other words, I don't know what the rules may be, but others that might be on the service side to presumably take a lesser amount if that was what we were able to give them. And I don't know if it's meaningful for you to have less than the whole, given that you have a bid for that roof.
Well, let me just say this, ma'am. The services that we provide are so vital that if you cannot provide us with all of the funding that we're looking for, we will reach out to former members of the council. And we believe that we have a group of people who would be willing to listen to our plea, because it's vital.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Again, thank you. Much appreciated, and certainly we see if there's anything that can be done financially to offer support. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Janice, Excuse me. I think that concludes everyone's presentation to us. I think everybody should have received in their packet the brief summary description sheet that we're familiar with here. Again, Janice, we'd return those to Janice, at the earliest convenience. Janice, when do you need those by the way?
I need those probably within the next week. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll try my best to get whatever answers to your questions.
Okay. Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Thanks, Mayor. So Janice, I understand that the format is that we just give rankings, but if we wanted to find a way of, funding all of them, but with lesser amounts or something to that effect, is that something that we can provide you that, or you just can only work it with these scores? Because, obviously they're all worthy. And so they're of course a difficult set of decisions.
What usually happens is everybody gets about the same amount. Some get, a little bit more, some get a little bit less, but we don't generally put a big pocket of funds to one project unless there's a special reason to do that. As far as I can remember, we've only done that once in the past for a nonprofit organization. So, and usually, sometimes they ask for a lot more than we were able to give, and they make do with what we end up giving them.
Sure. And the last, presenter obviously spoke to that particular thing that had to do with a capital expense. But and just to be clear, it sounds like you don't have a firm number, but you believe it's something like 320 that would come off, down to 220 after you take off 100,000 for the township project.
More or less, yeah.
So that's, I know it's not a number that you really have in hand, but what you're estimating is that there would be about 220,000 that would be apportioned among whatever number of these entities.
I think the township's projects would probably be more than 100,000. It's about 150.
Oh, I misread, but there were two things. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So what's left goes. Generally what we do is we fund the township projects, and what's left gets divvied up to the agencies. And the county ultimately, because the county is the one who's doing all the in-depth monitoring of the organizations, and they have a lot of input into which agencies are doing well and which agencies should get, more funding because they use the money wisely. So that's part of the consideration as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, just a reminder, we'll be doing a resolution and then it does go to the county, and the county ultimately will look over this, just as a reminder.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments on this? All right, and we've all heard the time frame. If we can return those to Janice in the next week, I know she would appreciate it. All right, thank you again for all who came on, and Janice, thank you as well for coming on and giving us some time tonight. It's appreciated. Bye-bye, Janice. Okay. All right, next, excuse me, I want to move to the approval of the minutes. There have been presented to us the minutes of April 1st and May 18th, 2021, and September 21st, and October 19th, 2021. Are there any corrections or additions? Seeing none, I so move. All.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments, modifications? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. We've approved the minutes. For proclamations, first proclamation, if I can ask Councilman Russo, would you please do the honors of our first proclamation tonight?
Let's see, that's for Louis Luibil, I believe, is it?
Correct.
Thank you, Mary. I knew him very well. Now, this is congratulating former and our late Deputy Fire Chief Louis Luibil Jr. Whereas the late Lou Luibil Jr. was honored by the 100 Club as the 2020 recipient of the Giblin Gardner Community Service Award at the 56th annual dinner of the club held on December 1st. That was last week at the Glenridge Country Club. Whereas the 100 Club was established in 1966 and maintains a fund that was established to support the family members of police officers and firefighters injured or killed in the line of duty, and to provide scholarships to the qualifying children of Montclair police and firefighters. The award, created in 2009, was named in honor of former police chief Edward Giblin and former fire chief John Gardner, in recognition of their exemplary community service records as leaders of New Jersey's finest and bravest public safety department. Whereas Mr. Luibil graduated from Montclair High School in 1949 and served from 1951 to 1953 in the Korean War. When he returned from the war, he joined the Montclair Fire Department in 1954. While serving in the Montclair Fire Department, he moved through the ranks of lieutenant. In 1963, deputy chief. 1980, he focused his career on fire prevention, was responsible for introducing the home inspection program instituted by the Fire Prevention Bureau. Whereas Mr. Luibil taught fire safety courses to all ages, he taught courses on drill preparedness, institutional safety, equipment management in colleges, schools, and local businesses and hospitals. When Mr. Luibil retired from the fire department in 1983, after 29 years of service, he redirected his expertise towards educational programs throughout New Jersey. Whereas Mr. Luibil worked with the Montclair Lions Club, the Montclair Red Cross, in introducing Operation Edith, which taught families how to escape from fire. The manual was distributed to 30 states in English and Braille during the Fire Prevention Week in 1985. Mr. Luibil also partnered with the Montclair Red Cross to promote fire safety throughout Montclair elementary schools. And whereas Mr. Luibil retired, after he retired, he was appointed by Governor Thomas Kean to serve as the first state fire marshal in the New Jersey Fire Safety Bureau and served as the Director of Emergency Management for Essex County. He was also a longtime member of the Montclair YMCA, St. Sebastian Society of Montclair, the Lions Club, the 100 Club of Montclair, and in addition to those organizations, was a board member of the American Red Cross and also a member of the New Jersey Career Fire Chiefs Association. Therefore, now, the mayor and council of the Township of Montclair, County of Essex, hereby join his friends and family in the 100 Club in honoring the late Louis Luibil for his many contributions to the community and congratulate his family as a recipient of this award. So moved.
Excellent. It's moved, seconded, all in favor.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
And certainly, thank you, Councilman Russo, and a great recognition there, of course, for the service. Next, we also have a proclamation. Can I have Mr. Deputy Mayor, would you please do the honors?
I would be honored. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a proclamation congratulating former police detective Kim L. Nelson Edwards. Whereas former Montclair police detective Kim L. Nelson Edwards was honored by the 100 Club as the 2021 recipient of the Giblin Gardner Community Service Award at the 56th annual dinner of the club held on December 1st, 2021 at the Glen Ridge Country Club. I know many of us were there, and it was a great evening. It was great to see Detective Nelson Edwards again. Whereas the 100 Club was established in 1966 and maintains a fund that was established to support the family members of police officers and firefighters injured or killed in the line of duty, and to provide scholarships to the qualifying children of Montclair police officers and firefighters. The award, created in 2009, was named in honor of former Montclair Police Chief Edward Giblin and former Fire Chief John Gardner, in recognition of their exemplary community service records as leader of New Jersey's finest and bravest public safety departments. And whereas Ms. Nelson Edwards began her career as a parking enforcement officer in 1995 and became a patrol officer in 1997. During her career, Ms. Nelson Edwards was assigned to the Community Policing Bureau as a field training officer and then assigned to the Juvenile Detective Aid Bureau. In 2001, Ms. Nelson Edwards worked as a school resources officer at Montclair High and became a tremendous asset. She worked closely with the students and staff members to create a safe learning environment. And whereas Ms. Nelson Edwards served the Montclair community for 23 years before retiring in 2018, she has demonstrated devotion to her community by serving as a member of several enforcement, community, and fraternal organizations. Ms. Nelson Edwards served as a corresponding secretary to the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, also known as NOBLE, Northern New Jersey Chapter, secretary of the Montclair Fraternal Order of Police, and held various positions for the Redliners Motorcycle Club. Ms. Nelson Edwards was recognized as an Angel New Jersey honoree in 2013 and received the Community Impact Award in 2018. And whereas Ms. Nelson Edwards is a 14-year breast cancer survivor and was an advisor for Montclair High School's Breast Cancer Awareness Club, she raised money and awareness about breast health to the young adults in the community through her nonprofit organization. Ms. Nelson Edwards is a Reach to Recover advocate for the American Cancer Society and is a strong supporter for the Susan Komen Foundation. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Township of Montclair, County of Essex, hereby join friends and family and the 100 Club in honoring Ms. Kim Nelson Edwards for her many contributions to this community and congratulate her as a recipient of this award. And I am honored to so move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Moved and seconded, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Um,
Aye.
We certainly all greatly appreciate her service for sure. So thank you for reading that as well. Okay. Again, genuine flexibility. I will also take this moment to read another proclamation that I've added here as a mayoral proclamation. And this one is honoring Environmental Commission member Lyle Landon. I have had the great pleasure of working with Lyle for so many years as one of the liaisons to the Environmental Commission. I know the wonderful work she has done, the leadership she has shown. So really, I know that she is moving, and certainly she will be greatly missed. And I want to take this moment to recognize her and her years of service. So, whereas Lyle Landon is a longtime resident of Montclair and has served the community as a member of the Montclair Environmental Commission for over 12 years, 6 of which she served as co-chair, and an active volunteer within the Presbyterian Church of Upper Montclair. And whereas the Montclair Environmental Commission guides Montclair Township to reduce carbon emissions, build climate resilience, advance environmental justice, and protect our living environment. And whereas during Lyle Landon's service with the Montclair Environmental Commission, she has been part of important and varied environmental accomplishments, including municipal policy making, project planning management, educational media and event creation, and network building. And whereas initiatives that Lyle helped the Township of Montclair achieve include the plastic ban ordinance, the styrofoam recycling, the installation of the pollinator garden in Watchung Park, and much more. Certainly, Lyle, I got to say, our energy aggregation program that you've also been instrumental in, just such a huge impact. So thank you. Whereas outside of her service in Montclair, Lyle Landon was a development director for the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions and achieved leadership in energy and environmental design accreditation through the U.S. Green Building Council, which is recognized worldwide as upholding exemplary standards for building green. And therefore, certainly on behalf of the Township and of Montclair, the County of Essex, I do hereby extend sincere gratitude and appreciation to the Montclair Environmental Commission member, Lyle Landon, for more than 12 years of service to our community, for her significant contributions to the environment and the betterment of the Township of Montclair. Lyle, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So those are our proclamations for this evening. And with that, I will open it up to public comment. In an effort to minimize exposure to COVID-19 and to maintain social distancing practices, this meeting of the council and further meetings until the pandemic is over will only be available to the public remotely. Those who wish to participate now during public comment should dial in to 408-418-9388. When asked to enter an access code, please enter 2331-118-9644. Then press pound. When asked to enter an attendee number, please simply press pound. When asked, please state your name and then press pound. The administrator will say when it's the caller's turn to speak, and the caller will then hear 2 beeps. At that time, the caller will have an opportunity to make to her comments. Mr. Stafford, Mr. Fan, turn it over to you to manage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. First up tonight would be caller with the number starting 201247. 201247, it is your turn to comment. Please state your name for the record. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Lyle Landon.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sean and everyone on the council, thank you so much. I had no idea that you were going to honor me so eloquently, and therefore I have very little to say because your proclamation really declared it all, except thank you so much for the opportunity to serve. It has been wonderful. It's been so exciting to see the growth of people interested in the environment and participating in the environment, all sorts of new organizations, including Green Montclair, Clean Montclair, the Montclair Climate Action Group. All of these groups have come out and become bigger, and organizations like the League of Women Voters has its own environmental committee. So there's just become an army of people that want to make Montclair greener and safer and more sustainable. And I thank you for that opportunity to do it. I'm especially excited about the future in terms of having the Greenway and its terminus at Montclair, and us to be able to be the best, not just the 9th state park for New Jersey, but the very best park. And I will contribute to that forever. Thank you again.
Mr. Mayor, if I could jump in for a second, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Lyle, we've been friends. I know we met at Presbyterian Church of Montclair 20-something years ago. Thank you for all your service and support over the years. You've done some amazing work. My best to your husband, Dan, and your children, and wishing you great things as you take your next step in this journey. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet, Mr. Deputy Mayor. And Lyle, I'm impressed. I don't know how you got to the front of the queue. Perfect timing on all that, but well done as always for you. Perfectly suited and in place. So thank you. But Lyle, we wish you the best.
Thank you, Lyle.
Thank you, Lyle. Thank you.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973-444. It is your turn to comment. 973-444. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hello, my name is Chris Dumano. Hello, Mr. Mayor. I have been a resident at 416 Greenfield Ave, which is adjoined by the alleyway that goes from Greenfield Ave south to the parking lot. And I just wanted to ask, two other departments in town.
Excuse me, we really can't hear the call.
Yeah, I can't hear a word that the gentleman is saying. So what I would ask, what I would ask is if you would please do us the service of actually the fellow's call dropped off, so maybe he was having self-service problems. If you would call back, we'll do what we can to get you in the queue. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-619. 973-619. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. Good evening, Mayor and Council and the public. This is Ahava, President of the Tenants Organization of Montclair. On tonight, just to say that it is absolutely vital that the Council vote to continue the rent freeze for another 3 months, because tenants could be subject to unconscionable increases without this. And we also would we know we have your continued support for the rent control ordinance in Montclair. Now, this is for the public. If you or someone you know lives in Cranetown or at 77 Orange Road, please call and email about joining the Tenants Organization of Montclair. We have heard you, and we know that you've been getting leases with increases, some that break the rules set by the rent freeze on increases ordinance. This ordinance has been in place since the beginning of the pandemic. It's dated to May, retroactive to May 1 of 2020 based on the approvals of the council meetings. This is not the only building we have received tenant complaints from, even as of recent. A reminder, lastly, about the DCA funds, Department of Community Affairs, Funds for Rental Assistance. There is now a deadline. We've been emailing you. We've been making phone calls. We've posted to social. We ask you to share all to each other to make sure that you apply for the funds, do your self-certification. Some people make assumptions that they are not eligible, and they really can be eligible. These are COVID funds for rental assistance, and many of you have lost jobs and have had reduced hours and could very possibly qualify for the funds. The deadline is now December 15. So today's the 7th. The deadline is December 15th of 2021. We hope that you are all applying for what you need and sharing this with your family and friends, in particular here in Montclair, because that's who we're here for first. You can reach us at tenantsorganizationmontclair@gmail.com and 973-936-8848. And this is public. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-820. It is your turn to comment. 973-820. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening. This is Tony Martin. I'm also with the Tenants Organization of Montclair. I called tonight as a tenant and representing the tenants group at my building, 3941 Fullerton Avenue. We have continuing difficulties with such as having no super now for several months and various other problems that crop up almost every day. And all of us, of course, need that rent freeze because we are paying very high rents as it is, and we're not getting what we should for that. And therefore, the first step toward tenants' rights is that we get a rent control ordinance that enforces our rights in all ways, in our rights to decent housing for a fair price, an affordable price. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-943. It is your turn to comment. 973-943. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Good evening. My name is James Cotter. I am calling tonight on behalf of Mr. William Scott, somebody I deeply respect and whose work for the people of Montclair is unique in scope and depth. I was so deeply disappointed that Mr. Scott was exposed to a racist verbal assault by the township attorney, such a prominent employee of the township, that I felt compelled to comment here tonight. Although Montclair prides itself on being a bastion of tolerance and progressivism, even we are not immune to bias and prejudice. Mr. Scott is not alone in his exposure to racial abuse. We need to listen more to the people of our community who experience overt and casual forms of racism every day, and to hear their voices and experiences. This incident presents the township with an opportunity to reevaluate our hiring practices, to recruit professionals for these important positions in ways that will better reflect our values as a community. Specifically, our search for a new township attorney should take into consideration the experience of Mr. Scott and be performed in the context of healing and reconciliation. We must be intentional with our search to find an individual who we can be proud of. To that end, I hope we can look to Mr. Scott as an example, to follow his lead and recommit ourselves to the difficult work of nurturing a community of tolerance, equity, and inclusion. Thank you very much.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973-752. 973-752. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Good evening. My name is Charles Gormally. I'm an attorney with Brock Eichler in Roseland. I am counsel to the Committee of Petitioners as well as the Montclair Property Owners Association. Thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly with you tonight. And I'd like to bring a couple of matters to the public's attention. I'm sure the council and the administration are well aware that the appellate division earlier this week indicated that the trial court was correct in ordering the rent control question to be placed on the ballot for Montclair voters to consider. And I hope that, as I've written to the township attorney, that the township uses this opportunity to reevaluate the strategy that it implemented on the very beginning of COVID, in which it determined to disenfranchise many Montclair voters who have attempted and in fact signed the petition. Both the trial court and now the appellate division have made it abundantly clear that the township clerk was both arbitrary and capricious in rejecting voters who signed the petition electronically. And I invited the township to reconsider its legal position, basically because the township will cost the taxpayers of Montclair hundreds of thousands of additional dollars if they continue to this litigation. Rather than move in that direction, it appears the township is again poised to adopt and extend a confiscatory rent freeze in the face of now being told by the appellate division that rent control does not exist in Montclair right now. The ordinance has properly been stayed. And second, that the question should be submitted to the voters. Rather, the township appears to be resolved to extend a confiscatory rent freeze. And by that, I mean hundreds of Montclair landlords have already notified tenants that effective January 1, they are looking for reasonable rent increases in the rent, which they have been unable to ask tenants to pay since pandemic started. Rather than understand the reality of the landlord's situation, the township appears, even though apparently some speakers think this is a very inclusive community, to both ignore the will of the voters and not put this question on the ballot, and secondly, to ignore the economic realities facing landlords. And that is, in a period of time of historic inflation, we now are asking landlords to continue to freeze rents when that is an absolute interference with the contract rights of landlords. I can assure you that you will promote additional litigation if the township moves ahead and
That sound was your time expiring. Please do us the service of concluding your comments.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that. I will conclude it. I'll just say, I really hope the township uses this opportunity to reevaluate its position to extend the rent freeze. Thank you very much.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973-445. 973-445. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device,
Lou Joseph.
and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Lou Joseph. Good evening, Council. I've been a landlord in Montclair for over 35 years. I've been a resident of this township for over 60 years. I've always treated my tenants fairly and kept my property in pristine condition. I would also like to say that I have never attended a council meeting or contacted a council person during all these years of living in Montclair. As an owner, I've always done my best to keep my property updated and responsive to my tenants' needs. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, none of us knew what to expect. Many persons were furloughed from their jobs. I worked along with my tenants during the crisis. Thankfully, a few of them that were furloughed returned to their employment within a few months. I would have worked along with my tenants whether there was a rent freeze imposed by the township or not. I have respect for my tenants and feel if you treat people fairly, the end result is always good. I realize the township installed a rent freeze in order to help tenants. However, where is the help for the landlords? I still have to pay my taxes, which have increased. I still have to pay my mortgage, and when I inquired about possibly not being able to at the start of the pandemic, I was told by the bank that I still need to make my payments. There was no freeze for homeowners. I also continue to pay water, sewer, gas, electric, and insurance, all of which significantly increased since 2020. Why hasn't the taxes in Montclair been frozen? My tenants are currently in their second year of a no increase because of the rent freeze. There are no other municipalities surrounding us that have extended this. If we're going to be fair, let's be fair to all. I have never increased rents for my tenants even close to what the proposed rent control ordinance will be. People are back to work, schools are open, and there are many, many businesses who need a workforce. This rent freeze for such an extended period has been unfair and unjust. It's a shame that when the freeze is finally lifted, property owners will have no other recourse but to increase rent significantly to make up for the 2 years of no increase. We have increased bills to pay, and the burden has solely been on the landlord. In the future, I believe decisions should be made that are fair and just to all parties involved. This rent freeze should have never been extended until March 2020 as proposed this evening. Thank you.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973-746. It is your turn to comment. 973.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council. My name is Mike Galoff. I live in this town for about 23 years, and I'm going to speak just briefly about the rental increase and also about the rent control that's in litigation right now, I guess. So I have the ability to speak on both sides. So I'm a landlord in town. I have a two-family home, and my son is a tenant in town. And basically, you know, as a landlord, I feel that a lot of these people in town, a lot of these landlords are very, very greedy. I think that, you know, in all the years I've lived here, I've raised it maybe a tiny little bit. During the pandemic, I didn't raise it at all. I mean, you have to be fair. I mean, I know it's a business and they run it like a business, but, you know, we're still in the pandemic. We're still in a pandemic. There's still people who have lost jobs. There's still people who don't have money. We have to, you know, put the rental freeze, the proposed rental freeze to March or whatever I think you guys are talking about. And as far as the rent control in town, I'm all for it. And I'm a landlord talking, okay? My son, the first time he got moved out of the house, 29 years old, we got him to move out. He moved into a great house right on Elm Street, right? The building's great. He had to qualify for it. It was a low-income building. The owner received subsidies from the state. Well, anyway, 6 months ago, those subsidies dried up, and the owner sold the building. Now a bunch of investors bought the building. They want to raise it 13.5%. 13.5%. I mean, it's really crazy. So, you know, in concluding, I just really hope that you guys continue to do the good work that you're doing, and you know, hope things will work out on the referendum if it goes to a vote. Thank you so much.
Next would be caller with the number starting 201-424. 201-424. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
This is Ron Simoncini from the Montclair Property Owners Association. I think an extension of the rent freeze at this point, as Mr. Gormally said, will certainly generate litigation. And it's litigation that has a very special component to it, which is that you're depriving us of our civil rights. When you do that, you expose yourself to not only sanctions, not only a reversal of your decision, but the repayment of attorney's fees. You're already facing probably $250,000 that or more. And this is something that we don't take any joy in. This is something we try to avoid. This is something we counseled on. We basically pleaded to not have to go through this process over some very simple, reasonable amendments to the rent control ordinance that was proposed. And now we're here. And it's only going to get worse. This is a township that couldn't even send out a notice of the rent freeze. And now it wants to extend the rent freeze beyond any state of emergency. There's no justification for that. It's a taking. Sometime soon, reason has got to prevail on your body. You have to recognize that you're going down the wrong path. There's not one sliver of evidence that says you should have done what you've done here. And you got to stop. You're costing everybody thousands and thousands of dollars. And if you're going to listen to somebody who comes on who's got a 2-unit house and call himself a property owner, sorry, he's not even covered by the rent control ordinance. These are professional property owners. Ms. Martin came on and said, well, our guy doesn't have a super. I don't know if she has a super or doesn't have a super, but I can tell you what, it's getting really hard to hire supers. It's getting hard to hire anybody. And in particular, you have to pay up. We have to pay up for good people because the labor market is so strict right now, so stringent, right now, that everybody's looking for more money. Totally understandable. Costs of everything are going higher. Why shouldn't somebody want a higher wage? But who do you think we're going to get to hire if we have to keep our wages low when we run the apartment complex? We're not going to get the highest quality people. And that's going to convert into not being able to maintain these places the way they should be maintained, the way they've been historically maintained in Montclair, because Montclair has had a sensible housing policy with no rent control. There shouldn't be rent control in Montclair. There doesn't need to be. But people would have accepted it had it been reasonable. And all we're asking for is for people to be reasonable going forward. We have to have this referendum. I have no faith that anybody on that council has the ability to compel their brothers and sisters on the council to create a reasonable approach to rent
Sir,
control.
your time has concluded. Please do us the service of summing up your comments.
To withdraw our referendum. I'm very sorry that this has all happened in Montclair, and I feel badly for the tenants who feel as though they've been abused, but the abuse has come at the hands of the council. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager,
Councilman Russo.
you're very quietly listening to all these comments by Mr. Simoncini and others. Mr. Simoncini, I followed you very carefully through all the towns you've made efforts in to stop rent control. Recently, Asbury Park voted to uphold the current rent control they had passed by Councilwoman Quinn, my good friend, and others, and you made a major effort to defeat a stronger rent control there. So that succeeded, but they still have a good rent control ordinance, which you seem to not think we should have at all. So I have good friends on the council in Neptune. In Neptune, they tell me you participated in getting petitions signed that were misleading people, which I believe the petition we're talking about here, even though it's been ruled to be adequate to have a referendum, I know many, many people who got approached by young people on the streets who didn't even know what they were doing, saying to people, you better sign this for rent control. Sign this petition for rent control. It was a petition to stop rent control. The deception was continual. So, we're going to have a referendum, or we're going to have negotiations, or we're going to have discussions. But I've been doing this for almost 22 years. And I never saw people come to the council meetings and attack us as being such bad people for simply trying to help tenants who are struggling during a pandemic, during an economic problem here. None of this is over. Look what's going on again. And especially in some states, not like our progressive New Jersey. So, Mr. Simoncini, just stop calling and telling me and my colleagues how bad we are and that we did bad things. You have a difference of opinion with us. You sued, you won, but, we're doing what we think is right for a large number of people who have struggled economically, okay? Montclair wants to maintain diversity. We want to maintain affordability. And we want to maintain both seniors, young people, couples, tenants who can't really afford 30% increases, which is what some of them were getting before our freeze. So we don't need a freeze if we've got rent control. And you stopped us from having rent control so far. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. I would offer well said. Mr. Stafford.
Next would be caller with the number starting 917-545. 917-545. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Hi, my name is John Van Wagner. I'm calling with regard to the recent statement by Sean Spiller regarding the verdict in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse. Mr. Spiller and N.J.S.A. Secretary Treasurer Petal Robinson joined in declaring, quote, "Today we share the fear and frustration of all those who are reliving the trauma of previous miscarriages of justice. Today we share the anger of all those who know that our communities are less safe because this verdict sent a harmful message that vigilante justice is legitimate." I'd like to ask N.J.S.A. President Spiller whether he sat on the Rittenhouse jury or has any other legitimate way of passing judgment on a case in which he had no ostensible involvement. And more importantly, by what right does he interject a naked political perspective in this matter when he sits at the pinnacle of the education establishment of the state? It's not a surprise to anyone who has had children in the Montclair school system that progressive political indoctrination is a fact of life in the town's classrooms starting in kindergarten. But N.J.S.A. President Spiller has brought this policy to the next level, using his position of power and influence to publicly undermine the function of the nation's judicial system and slander a defendant who is acquitted under the law. I would suggest to Mr. Spiller that those facing the trauma of political intimidation in our schools, whose values and beliefs are belittled by the establishment on an ongoing basis, whose careers are ruined and terminated on the basis of accusation and innuendo in order to the furtherance of the ruthless march of the progressive agenda here. These people are the ones most in need of protection from the very institutions which are tasked to serve them. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, I just have to say something. I'm not saying this in defense of the mayor. I'm saying this in defense of this town. Mr. Van Wagner comes to these meetings with something he's always got a big gripe about nationally, okay? This kid that took a gun that he shouldn't have had and shot 3 people is obviously guilty of doing something. This kid the other day that shot people in the schools where he went to school and his parents gave him the gun, that whole family is obviously guilty. You know, you can say that somebody was exonerated and they got acquitted, but that's a legal acquittal. A moral and an honest, ethical acquittal has not occurred. If you really believe, Mr. Van Wagner, that these things are some conspiracy of the Democratic Party and progressives and the left wing and all this stuff, you're the one who has a conspiracy. I always defend you and your party and your club about bullying. I believe bullying shouldn't occur. When I was in school as a 8th grader, I was for President Kennedy, just going into high school, and I was bullied by people who didn't want a Catholic to be president. I had students who were children of ministers even coming up to me and saying, "We hate RCs." I thought they meant RC Cola, they meant Roman Catholics. I was bullied when I was in elementary and high school just for the same political beliefs that I believe you have political beliefs. People who like Trump have political beliefs. They shouldn't be bullied. But let's talk about how people are dying. Just the other day, this kid shot people in his school because his parents encouraged him to have a gun and he should never have had. The same thing with this Rittenhouse guy. These are people who are doing terrible, terrible things that they're getting away with because our judicial system doesn't seem to be fair. It really doesn't. That's what people feel. And, you know, I always go back to telling people the story about how when I was a first-year teacher in Newark, got paid $5,200 and I couldn't write on the blackboard, which was an inoperable blackboard. At Roosevelt Avenue School, you couldn't write on it. It was all slick. So I bought my own blackboard for $29, brought it into the classroom, joined the teachers union immediately, AFT, NTU, and then we had a strike. And 200 of us, including our president, Carol Graves, an African-American woman, she went to jail for 6 months. What did she do? What did I do that we would get arrested? the justice system was unfair. That was 50 years ago. So I am educated by experience. And I respect you, Mr. Van Wagner. I have clashes with you over these issues. You come on and tell us how bad this town is indoctrinating and brainwashing the kids. That's not what we as teachers do. I don't do that on the college level. I never did that as a fourth grade teacher in Newark. But we've had struggles over trying to have fairness for teachers. Teachers need unions. Teachers, we got a small raise to $9,000 after 200 of us went to jail. That's what it took to get a $9,000 starting salary. And I still had to buy my own blackboard. The Board of Ed in Newark didn't provide it. So I just had to say this tonight because I'm tired of hearing this stuff. Every week we get these calls that are so unfair and so distorted and so unlike Montclair's real traditions and progressive leadership. We could have differences of opinion, but let's not attack each other like we're seeing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Russo. And certainly I think my statements and values speak for themselves, but thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Stafford?
Yes, sir. Next will be caller with the number starting 917-331. 917-331. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device. 917-331. Next would be caller with the number starting 973-744. 973-744. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to three minutes, and mute your listening device. 973-744.
Can you hear?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yes. This is greetings, Mr. Mayor and Town Council and staff. This is Pastor Elizabeth Campbell of the Rising Mount Zion Baptist Church here in Montclair. I have the singular privilege of being the pastor of Mr. William Scott. I feel it is important for Mayor Spiller, the Town Council, the Civil Rights Commission, and the past town attorney to know the toll that this racist comment has taken on Mr. Scott, as well as other members of the community who have spent much time and energy in dealing with it. It hit at the very core of this godly man's being, and we know it has broader ramifications. We have been in prayer in council, and I want you to know that Mr. Scott, this quiet, resourceful, efficient gentleman, knows who he is and whose he is. He knows from whence he came, where he is, and has his sights set by the leading of God as to where he is headed. I thank God for Brother Bodie, as we call him, and the town should also thank God for him. He is focused, diligent, and tenacious in fighting for the rights of the people in the community. Without a doubt, he deserves a formal apology from the mayor and this township council. Thank you very much.
Next would be caller with the number starting at 973-809. 973-809. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Hi, my name is Mike Seidman. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, I am a small landlord here in Montclair. I am a resident here as well. I see two main reasons why this rent freeze should not continue. Number one being the renters who've been affected by COVID have already been given aid by the government and other programs. I know renters who are still receiving aid and are back at work. There are also plenty of renters who have not been affected financially from COVID at all. And number two, the small landlords in this town are bearing the enormous burden of cost. Costs have gone up considerably since COVID. there are massive supply chain issues. More tenants are working from home, resulting in more servicing, repairs, capital expenditures, et cetera. Big landlords here in Montclair, who you've attracted over the years, have the scale to manage these costs, not to mention the enormous tax savings that they have. And these costs have not and will not be recouped by small landlords until the freeze is over. The freeze has gone on long enough in Montclair. I don't know a single other town in New Jersey that is fighting for this. At the end of the day, I absolutely have my tenants' best interest in mind, and I've worked with many of them throughout COVID. But I feel that you've exclusively sided with them, and we need a bit more fairness, and this freeze needs to end. Thank you very much.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973444. It is your turn to comment. 973444. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Chris Cusimano. I'm a tenant at 416 Bloomfield Ave, next to the Benjamin Payne store. My landlord is Paul Zimmerman, and the alleyway that goes from Bloomfield Avenue to South Fullerton lot is a public alleyway, according to the zoning department, who directed me to the parking authority to determine if they were responsible for just taking care of maintenance, general maintenance, the leaves, snow removal, things like that. Because for the past decade that I've lived here, I've always just taken it upon myself to take care of it. And I'm just looking to find out if the town is responsible for that, or if it does fall on my landlord, because he seems to think that it's the town's responsibility. If anybody could help me figure out how to go about this maintenance for that alleyway where the mural is, because it is a little bit of a backbreaking job, and just looking for a little bit of help at this point.
Understood, sir. If what I can do tomorrow is have that researched, and if it is township controlled or owned property, then the township should maintain it and will maintain it. So what I can guarantee you is that that analysis will take place immediately, and if it is the township's responsibility, then the township will take over the maintenance. And I appreciate your call.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford. And as it falls in the third ward, if you would kindly just copy me on whatever the correspondent with the gentleman is, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973747. 973747. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is William Scott, lifelong resident of Montclair for 72 years, a landlord who supports the rent freeze and also the rent control ordinance. I'm speaking tonight about the comments that Mr. Korozak made on September the 21st. With the help of my pastor, my family, and God, I will get through this. But it's not about me. It's about our community. We have to respect one another. We have to move forward. We have to believe that Montclair is a wonderful place to live. We can have differences. We can work through those differences. You know, hopefully we'll work through the difference with the rent control ordinance and have something in place that will work for landlords and tenants. But if we're going to be progressive and if we're going to be diverse, there is no room to ever degrade another human being. At some point in time, I will reach out to Mr. Rozak because it is in my heart to do that. But Montclair is at a crossroads. We have to work together. You know, I've got a couple of signs out in front of my house, Black Lives Matter. I've got another sign out there with a black and a white hand shaking. That sign was given to me by Miss Tina, because we have to make sure that Montclair is here for our children, our grandchildren, our seniors. So, as Pastor said, I'm a quiet person. I know each and every one of you, especially the council members that have had multiple terms, and some of the new council members I've had conversations with. I will continue to stand up for affordable housing. I will continue to fight for those rights for all residents of Montclair. And if I'm reappointed in some of the different commissions and committees that I'm currently acting as the co-chair of the Montclair Housing Commission and a member of the Parks and Recreation Committee, I'm committed. I'm committed to work with anyone and everyone who has the same vision of making Montclair a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, and certainly for your commitment to this town over just a great number of years, and for all of your service in so many ways. And we stand right there with you. Thank you.
Next will be caller with the number starting 973424. It is your turn to comment. 973424. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Deirdre Malloy. I was in the elevator on September 21st, 2021, and was completely shocked, hurt, and taken aback when Mr. Karasik made the disgraceful, racist remark. I delayed making public remarks for personal reasons and to give the council time for a formal investigation to verify the allegations, due process, and to report back to the NAACP. I'm speaking up in support of William Scott on the record for a second time. The first time I spoke up was to the NAACP on September 23rd. I will always support Mr. Scott and could never be disloyal to him with silence. It was painful to hear his remarks tonight. It is wrong to make any type of anti-Semitic remarks, and wrong to make derogatory remarks toward anyone who identifies as LGBTQI. We saw swift and certain consequences for a Black man in town who made remarks in a public setting not so long ago. Whether or not remarks are public or private, this incident is no exception and is wrong. It is 2021, the 21st century. Black people have had enough. People are tired of the lack of respect and support for Black leaders and children in this community. Montclair, I am a fourth generation Montclairian, and Montclair is a progressive town, allegedly. Mr. Karasik's apology is noted. However, his last sentence stating, quote, For me, who has studied and worked with our Constitution nearly my entire life. And he goes on to say, but rather it was an acknowledgement of the ingrained injustice, end quote. That quote really ruins the apology. Why would any Black people need to be reminded of such injustices? Or why would anyone want to acknowledge Black people being counted as 3/5 a human? There was no appropriate reason for such an acknowledgement, in my opinion. There is no legitimate reason to even diminish the damage of such a statement. Mr. Scott and I are very clear on the history of the Constitution. I can't imagine not speaking up. I speak up to uproot racial iniquities and injustices for Black children, men, and women in this township, especially for Mr. Scott, myself, and all Black leaders in this community. Just like other ethnic group lives, all Black lives matter. It is not a theoretical statement. Black people, regardless of the melanin hue, are whole, W-H-O-L-E people, and should be respected. And I'm sorry, but this is very difficult. Now, I'm going to speak to the landlords. Landlords can and have always been able to apply on behalf of their tenants via the DCA application for rent, for emergency assistance for back rent. So please, if you haven't done so, landlords, go ahead and get permission from your tenants to apply on their behalf. The application closes on the 15th, and please, tenants, you should be following the self-certification process as was mentioned earlier this evening. Thank you very much, and good night.
Next will be caller with the number starting 513-520. 513-520. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, mute your listening device, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Stafford, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, Council ladies. My name is Norman Solomon. I'm a Montclair resident, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters of the Montclair area in calling you. Initially, I have to join in on the honor bestowed on Lyle Landon for her wonderful work over a dozen years. We're also very, very grateful for the fact that Lyle has been a member of the League of Women Voters, and she also is a member of the Environmental Issues Committee of the League, which I have the privilege of chairing. In the 100+ years since American women won the fight and the right to vote, the nonpartisan practices of the League of Women Voters have not only been designed to register all citizens for the purpose of encouraging Americans to vote, but also to create and finance committees to study various positions that are of local, statewide, or national interest, thereby presenting the voters with the facts to enable them to make considered and knowledgeable decisions when they actually do vote. As one of such committees, the Environmental Issues Committee of the League of Women Voters here in Montclair, in the recent past, has had some of its initiatives, leading the movement to create Township recycling in Montclair, which I believe was the first such program in the state of New Jersey. Partnering with other environmentally engaged groups in Montclair and in this region to press for and win state approval for the development of the Hudson River Waterfront Greenway. Engaging students at Montclair High School and Montclair State University in supporting ecological causes and initiatives. Creating and publishing videos instructing citizens on energy consciousness and conservation, in as much as such attitudes and habits have become requisite as we face off against existential ecological challenges. And creating and distributing door hangers informing residents about recycling and energy savings. This coming year, the League of Women Voters Ecological Issue Committee will be ramping up its efforts, promoting forums, dialogues, events, and family activities to inform, challenge, and edify citizen voters to take those decisive actions which they, as an electorate, determine to be in the best interest of all to save our planet from irreversible man-made injury. So please stay tuned to social platforms, local news access points, and the League of Women Voters website to see what we're doing. So in closing, again, congratulations to Lyle Landon, and we appreciate this opportunity to address you all. In the coming months, you'll be hearing more from us, much, much more. Thank you for your time.
Next would be caller with the number starting 434851. 434851. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Good evening. I am Dr. Anita Wright, speaking on behalf of the Montclair African American Clergy Association, speaking in regard to the racially insensitive comments made by the now former Township Attorney, Ira Karasik, to Mr. William Scott on September the 21st, 2021. This comment is to address the council's actions in the time since the incident. As the Montclair African American Clergy Association, we have several concerns around the areas of accountability and transparency. We are concerned that this incident took place on September the 21st, but no decision was made until November the 30th regarding Mr. Karasik's comment. We are further concerned about the lack of transparency. While this incident occurred on September the 21st, and there was no formal public acknowledgement of it until the story was publicized by the Montclair Local on November the 22nd. There was no decision about this incident until Mr. Karasik's resignation on November the 30th. Furthermore, there has been no transparency around the findings of the independent investigation or even the terms of Mr. Karasik's resignation. For instance, will Mr. Karasik continue to receive compensation from the Township of Montclair, and if so, for how long, etc.? This raises our next concern. Does Mr. Karasik's resignation dissipate the need for the Township's accountability? To date, the Montclair Township has not issued a public apology to Mr. Scott or the Montclair community for Mr. Karasik's comments. Those comments were made while Mr. Karasik was acting as an agent of the Township. This may be the most egregious issue at hand. There has been no public statement condemning this incident, which raises concerns about the Township's ability to prevent it from happening again, or even managing it in a timely manner should a like incident occur. Thank you.
Next will be caller with the number starting 862-224. 862-224. It is your turn to comment. Please, for the record, state your name, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and mute your listening device.
Yes, good evening. Martin Schwartz, Montclair resident. I, too, am calling to express my support and concern regarding my good friend and colleague, Mr. William Scott. On his behalf, I was actually shocked when this incident came to light. And when I first heard it, my thoughts were that this was just a jerkish comment made by a guy to another guy that he knew, the kind of thing that men sometimes say to each other, "You're nothing." But when I finally heard his apology, heard Mr. Karasik's apology, and realized he actually knew what he was saying, I was just blown away and shocked. But I'm not surprised about this, and like the previous caller before me, I'm more concerned now about the lack of transparency of the investigations that have gone on here and how the manager has handled personnel issues like this over the years. If you remember, Mr. Karasik was involved in an incident that I spoke out at regarding the MC residence, where somehow, miraculously, while both the council and the planning board allocated 18 units per acre after a drafting error supposedly involving either Mr. Karasik and the town planner, miraculously the developer received 41 units per acre. And yet there was supposed to be an investigation about this by the manager. But somehow, like this situation, that investigation was never revealed. And there have been other incidents where things have occurred in this town, somehow personnel decisions are covered up as if the management and the personnel actions are here for employees, not for the public. So again, my concern and support for Mr. Scott, my friend, and concerns over how we have operated as a township, how the manager operates, the personnel issues involved, a new one arising recently involving the fire department. And I ask the council to take greater care and concern for how things are handled in this area going forward. Thank you.
Next would be caller with the number starting 973-280. It is your turn to comment. 973-280. Please, for the record, state your name. Keep your comments to 3 minutes and mute your listening device.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Candace Stanley. I've been a resident of Montclair for over 35 years. My children have gone through the school system. I'm a retired school teacher, and my comments are, of course, to that which was made of 3/5 of a man. And as a school teacher, I have this to say. When we look in the mirror, who do we see? What do we see? And more importantly, what do our children see when they look at us? Thank you.
Mayor, that is the last caller in the queue.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stafford. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the comments as well. Certainly more broadly, Mr. Stafford, if you choose to address, I know that some of the challenges certainly always, despite on the council side, us immediately and through your efforts engaging in independent investigations into any matter that's presented to us that that comes forward. Oftentimes personnel matters are governed under the law in terms of what can be shared and not shared, and we are restricted in that regard. But I do think actions speak pretty clearly, and people see at least some outcomes can be very visibly seen. So I'll certainly say that. Certainly our statements, I know that my statements have been clear and in the press since any incident, and certainly would refer anyone back there as well. With that, moving on, we do have a couple action items that we have here. First is Resolution R21-226. This is a resolution authorizing the cancellation of property taxes for disabled veterans pursuant to Montclair Code Chapter 309, Article VI and N.J.S.A 54:4-3.30, and I so move.
And I second, Mr. Mayor.
Been moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, and comments?
Mr. Mayor, a question.
Go ahead. Councilman Russo?
Yeah, we have, is this, well, here's what it is. Maybe the manager can answer it again. Is there an attorney here at our table with us tonight? Do we have our assistant?
Our attorney is present. She is here with us.
Okay. Now, this is a law which I totally support, but I asked questions a few years ago about this. When we give a tax, when we let someone not have to pay taxes anymore, right? We lose that money because the state and the federal government has put that law into place. And we should do that for veterans. My father-in-law was a Pearl Harbor survivor. Today's Pearl Harbor Day. I'm thinking of him right now as a veteran of Pearl Harbor attack. I'm always supportive of veterans. But I don't like when the state and federal government mandates things that we then lose revenue for, and they don't replace that revenue. It's the matter of having mandates without pay, unfunded mandates for years. So I just wanted to ask the manager and attorney again, is that what this is? This is the law that makes us give veterans a tax break.
Well, to your point, it is a state and federal law that veterans determined by the United States Veterans Administration to be totally disabled are entitled to their property taxes to be canceled. And if I understand your question correctly, the township does not receive reimbursement from either the state or the federal government in this regard in perpetuity.
Okay, so that's the whole point. I want this to be done. I support veterans. My father-in-law was in the Pearl Harbor attack. He was in the Pearl Harbor Survivors Group. I'm celebrating that today. I don't like the federal government and the state government telling us to lose revenue for any reason and then not replace it or not assist us in some way. We've gone through this for years. We have high property taxes. Everybody's upset with us. We're all upset with our town government being so expensive and the town government's property taxes are high. Well, that comes mostly from the school costs, which we really can't control, and the state doesn't give us enough aid. And it comes from a lot of unfunded mandates, which, by the way, as an aside, Bill Brock, the attorney from the Brock Eichler firm, who was a Democratic chairman in Montclair years ago, fought and got the state to pick up the costs of welfare from the county so that the state would not have to burden the county and mandate the county, which then costs us because we have to pay the county. Bill Brock fought that fight of unfunded mandates on welfare costs and court costs. And he got that lifted. He got the state legislature through Senator Cody and Senator Gill and others to fight that unfunded mandate for the county. So it's a longstanding effort made by our own distinguished former resident, Bill Brock, late Bill Brock, who I really respect for helping me get started in politics 30, 40 years ago. But this is a whole issue for me. We get mandates, we get no funding, and this is just an example of that. Again, I feel very strongly we should do this. I'm glad we're doing this. But when we lose, and we don't know, we can't ever predict when people are going to be given this, right? This right to have no taxes, because we never know when an application is going to be approved. What do? We just have to plug that hole, right? That's like $20,000 lost or 50,000, depending on how many people are going to be saving on their taxes, right?
Correct. We can't possibly predict it. That's correct.
Okay, so every year we just can't put into the budget an expectation of that. Just we have to absorb it somehow or increase taxes in the future, right? Okay, that's enough said by me. I'm supporting this. I support it. Just wanted to make the public aware that this is what we as municipal government officials go through. Mandates, unfunded, the ADA mandated, never funded. Crazy. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank the individual, Mr. Lopez, for his service to our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Councilwoman Price Abrams.
I mean, similarly, that's literally what I had jotted, that I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the gentleman for his service. And while I understand where Councilor Russo is going, and I know where he lands, of course, on this measure, I do want to just reinforce that I read it, not having seen it till the packet came, and just very much appreciate that this is something, it's a small measure we can do for someone who's obviously given such great sacrifice. And I'm proud to be able to support it.
Yes, as a note, and it was said by Mr. Stafford, this is for disabled veterans as well. It was for disabled veterans. Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded. It's a financial one. Do we have to do a roll call on this one, Mr. Yeah, all right, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock?
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Counselor Russo?
Yes, and by the way, the Lopez family are good friends of mine for years. Thank you.
Counselor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Yacovelis?
Yes.
Mayor Spiller?
Yes. Next is Resolution R21227, our bill list, and Councilwoman Schlager, would you please?
Of course. Thank you. Whereas invoices against the Township of Montclair in favor of the following persons for the amount set opposite their respective names have been received, duly audited, and found correct. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Township of Montclair, the County of Essex, that said invoices be, and they are hereby ordered paid, and that checks be drawn by the Finance Department to the order of such persons for the amounts respectively and hereinafter stated on the schedule attached hereto and made a part hereof. This bill list is dated December 7th, 2021, the amount of $22,645,589.05, and I so move.
Second.
We moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments?
I have a question.
Councilwoman Schlager.
Okay, thank you. On page 11, there's a charge from a law firm, Lum, Drasco, and Positan for $6,288, and it says investigation. I was wondering what investigation that was?
That was the investigation that the council directed be caused to commence in connection with the township attorney.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Councilman Yacobelis.
Page 9, IMAC Insurance Agency, the PO 2102101. And I noticed there's a name on there, so if this is personal information or privileged information, we can have the conversation offline, but I was just curious what this amount was for. I know it's deductible co-insurance, it just seems like a high amount, so I wonder if it's a settlement.
That's part of the township's self-insurance retention. I'm not sure why it's labeled as IMAC. It should be labeled as the Garden State Municipal Joint Insurance Fund. It's part of our self-insurance retention in connection with that litigation. So it really has nothing to do with IMAC. I don't know why IMAC is listed there.
Understood. Sorry, Mayor.
Did you have another one, Councilman, or were you?
I think actually Councilor Schlager asked my other one, and then, oh, sorry, just on page 23 for Dujet's tree experts, is that connected to, for tree removal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
You bet. Councilwoman Price Abrams. Did I get that right, Councilwoman Price Abrams?
Sorry, I was speaking, sorry. Anyway, thank you. On page 12, I had a question about the Neglia Engineering. It's a resolution authorizing professional services, I don't know, contract perhaps, but that's not, in other words, is that the retainer that a new retainer we took on? Is there a specific work that was pointed toward?
Neglia Engineering Associates, it's the township engineer. They bill us on a monthly basis for various projects in addition to being the township engineer.
So there's a regular retainer plus special projects that may be over and above?
No, ma'am, we get billed by the hour.
Okay, all right. Okay, got it. Okay, I think the other ones were answered as well. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes, thank you. Next are discussion items. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Stafford, if you'll go through the list, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding item number 1, state statute requires that a municipal governing body designate public depositories for the investment of funds and requires the adoption of a cash management plan. This resolution would establish such a cash management plan for calendar year 2022 as proposed and recommended by our Chief Financial Officer and would name official depositories to comply with the law. Item number 2, N.J.S.A 54:4-67A allows for a municipality to fix the rate of interest for delinquent taxes and municipal charges at a rate not to exceed 8% per annum for amounts under $1,500 and 18% per annum for amounts over $1,500 to be calculated from the date the tax was payable until the date that actual payment to the tax collector is made. N.J.S.A 54:4-67C allows a municipality to fix a penalty to be charged to a taxpayer with a delinquency in excess of $10,000 who fails to pay that delinquency as billed prior to the end of the fiscal year, as long as that penalty so fixed shall not exceed 6% of the amount of the delinquency with respect to each most recent fiscal year only. Item number 2 is a resolution that would set the interest rate for delinquent taxes and municipal charges for the year 2022 at the rate of 8% per annum for amounts that under $1,500 and 18% per annum for amounts over $1,500. No interest shall be charged if payment of any installment is made by the 10th of the month after the date upon which the same became payable, effective January 1, 2022. The resolution would also authorize a penalty of 6% on any delinquent taxes and municipal charges in excess of $10,000 in addition to the aforementioned interest charges. Item number 3 is a resolution that would, in an effort to comply with N.J.A.C. 17:27-3.3, designate qualified purchasing agent Al Dineros to serve as the Township Public Agency Compliance Officer for the period of January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022. Recently, one bid for the purchase and delivery of fire hydrants, fire hydrant extensions, breakaway kits, and retainer gland kits was received, opened, and analyzed. Based upon that analysis, recommendation is made to, and this resolution would authorize the award of a contract to the only responsive bidder, Core and Main LP of Edison, New Jersey. This contract would be for a 2-year period during which the listed prices would remain firm and the amount of the contract would not exceed $275,110.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Councilman.
Thank you. Mr. Stafford, just wanted to understand which part of that, what the source funds are essentially for this. I don't remember this being part of the capital budget, so is this out of operating?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, Manager, one question. This has nothing to do with the fire department. It has to do with the utilities, right?
Correct. It's for the repair, replacement, and other rehabilitation of fire hydrants and the infrastructure corollary there too.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 5 is a resolution that would retroactively authorize and ratify a contract with Carocia Company of Greenbrook, New Jersey for the emergency milling and paving of Bloomfield Avenue between Upper Mountain Avenue and Prospect Avenue associated with a water main break on August 26, 2021. For various reasons, this work could not be done by in-house personnel, and given that Bloomfield Avenue is the main county artery in Essex County, the road needed to be repaired and traffic allowed to flow as soon as possible. Resultantly, the Department of Utilities declared an emergency and engaged the subject contract to ensure the necessary immediate repairs. The total cost of the emergency expenditure is $26,000. Item number 6 is a resolution that would authorize the purchase of, from WatchGuard Video Incorporated and through the State of New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Program, 4 in-car video systems for patrol vehicles in the amount of $45,600.
Mayor, I have a statement on that. Oh, Councilor Price Abrams, if you want to go, you can go first. You're unmuted.
So consider it. Thank you. Just what Mr. Stafford wanted to clarify, this is for new vehicles that we're equipping and we otherwise have the other parts of the fleet already with cameras, or are we buying them in phases for some reason?
No, these are for new vehicles.
So all the other cars, we already have them.
Not all, they're patrol vehicles.
Okay, thanks.
And I just, like most of you have already done, I'm just in my own due diligence on this. I think it's important for the public to understand some of the context here, that these are for systems that we've had in place for 20 years. The reason they're so expensive is it includes the storage, the cloud capacity, the in-car system, including a 5-inch touchscreen, the service contract, and it's actually amortized over a 5-year period. So that's why we end up at almost $10,000 per car. Thank you.
On November 18, 2021, the Township opened, read, and analyzed 4 bids for its 2022 tree removal services program. Based upon that analysis, recommendation is made to, and this resolution would authorize the award of a contract in an amount not to exceed $300,000 to Dujet's Tree Experts of Woodland Park. This contract would be for 1 year with township options to renew at the same pricing for 2 additional 1-year periods consistent with law. Item number 8 is a resolution that would, consistent with state statutes, authorize the tax collector to process any property tax refund of less than $10 and also to process cancellations of any property tax refund, delinquency, or charges and fees imposed by the municipality of less than $10. As permitted by state statute and regulations, the township has established various trust reserve accounts through dedication by rider resolutions to reserve funds for obligations that come due after the end of a budget year. Funds remain available in the listed 2020 budget appropriation reserve accounts that the chief financial officer recommends be transferred to the respective listed trust reserve accounts. Item 9 is a resolution that would, again, consistent with state statute, authorize same. Item 10 is a resolution that would, as permitted by N.J.S.A 40A:4-19, prior to the adoption of the township's 2022 temporary and permanent budgets, approve a temporary budget appropriation effective December 21, 2021 for the listed debt service payments requirements for the coming fiscal year. Montclair Fire Department Station Number 3 is in need of structural repairs that will require the services of an architecture firm that specializes in the restoration and rehabilitation of historic properties to analyze the issues and prepare bid specifications so that the township can solicit bids from contractors to perform required work in compliance with requirements. Connolly and Hickey Historical Architects has submitted a proposal to provide the design phase of the project at a cost of $24,950. Item number 11 is a resolution that would authorize the award of a contract to the firm in that amount.
Mr. Mayor, just a statement on this one.
Please.
I just want to comment that this is probably the best proposal I've read since I've been in office. So kudos to Connolly and Hickey. And just as, you know, as we're requesting proposals, I know there's a whole host of laws that govern how we do that, but I just found this exceptionally comprehensive, easy to follow. And I particularly appreciated the information on the individuals as well, including their backgrounds. I just thought this was a really good model for proposals to the extent we can affect how they come into us going forward.
Item number 12 is a resolution that would authorize the award of a professional services contract to the firm of IMAC Insurance Agency for risk management and related consultancy services as related to insurable property and casualty exposures for the period of January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022 at the rate of 6% of the township's annual Garden State Municipal Joint Insurance Fund assessment. Please note that this negotiated fee is 1% lower than the standard Garden State Municipal Joint Insurance Fund annual risk manager fee of 7%. The local public contracts law authorizes this agreement to be awarded without bidding as an extraordinary unspecifiable service, and therefore I have submitted to you a standard certification declaration for such an extraordinary unspecifiable service.
Mayor, Mr. Mayor and Manager, just a quick question. We've had this organization do this for us for several years. Who did it before? Does anybody recall? Do we always have somebody do this consulting work for us?
Yes, I can see the gentleman's face. I cannot recall the name of the firm off the top of my head, so I apologize for that. But the township is required by the JIF to have a risk manager.
And they've been saving us money, I believe, haven't they?
There's no question.
Thank you.
Item number 13 is a resolution that would authorize the award of a professional services contract to the firm of IMAC Insurance Agency for insurance consultancy services and for insurance brokerage services for the period of January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022 for the sum of $95,000. Again, the local public contracts law authorizes this agreement to be awarded without bidding as an extraordinary unspecifiable service, and therefore I have submitted to you likewise a standard certification declaration. Number 14, 18 emergency blue light call stations exist in the Crescent parking day and deck and Bay Street parking deck. Repairs and reconditioning are required to 16 of the 18 existing units. Where particularly included in those repairs would be updating to the more reliable 4G cellular service. This resolution would authorize the award of a contract to perform the required work through the New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance of Bergen County to S.H.I. International Corporation in the amount of $65,708.92. N.J.S.A. 40A:4-58 permits transfers from budget appropriations with an excess over and above the amount needed to fulfill the township's actual obligation to those appropriations deemed insufficient. Our chief financial officer has recommended the transfer of funds listed on Schedule A, and this resolution would authorize same.
Mr. Stafford, Mr. Mayor, if I could interrupt, is the cost the same as that transfer, or is that transfer to give us a little bit of cushion if the cost is?
Truthfully, I don't know the specific dollar amounts. I would imagine that the $10,000 being transferred would give a bit of a cushion, but candidly, I don't know the exact number.
Okay, no problem.
Item 16, the township has for many years been a member of the Morris County Cooperative Pricing Council with the purpose and result being the realization of substantial savings on various goods and services through the cooperative bidding process. The township's current 5-year membership term recently expired on September 20th, and this governing body's approval by resolution is required to renew the membership. The resolution in item 16 would authorize same. Item 17 is a resolution that would retroactively authorize and ratify a contract with S.O.F.I.A. & Son General Contracting for emergency repair work completed on November 22, 23, and 24 of 2021 on the spillway apron at the Yanticah Brook Park Dam. These repairs were required to stabilize the apron to avoid undermining the existing spillway and the dam structure. This work was immediately necessary to protect the stability of the structure and to avoid risk to downstream property and public health and safety. For various reasons, this work could not be done by in-house personnel, and resultantly, the Department of Community Services declared an emergency and engaged the subject contract to ensure the necessary immediate repairs. The total cost of the emergency expenditure is $45,000.
Mrs. Stafford? Oh, go ahead, Councilor Price Abrams.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mayor. To Mr. Stafford, the one before, I'm sorry, item 16 would have to do with renewing our membership. I just was scanning and I didn't remember noticing it last night, but does it say what the cost of the membership is? Is it like we pay a membership fee?
I do, but it's de minimis. I don't recall what it is.
I'm sure I don't object. I just didn't, I was looking for whatever it would be. Okay. Thanks.
And then on item 17, I just was curious, was this damage as a result of Ida or some of the storms, or was this just something that was routine maintenance?
No, it was not routine maintenance. It was an emergency repair required to ensure public safety. I certainly don't believe that the remnants of Hurricane Ida storm helped the situation, but I don't know also that that was the total cause. I think it was a totality of the circumstances causing the repair necessary.
Okay, and we certainly had a lot of rainfall over the last couple of years. Thank you.
Item 18 is a resolution that would authorize the award of a contract in the amount of $93,750.55 through the New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance of Morris County to Denville Line Painting of Rockaway, New Jersey for thermoplastic traffic line striping and markings on the streets repaved in conjunction with the 2021 paving projects. Notwithstanding that this work was performed through a purchasing cooperative, given the reference contract amount, our qualified purchasing agent advised that this resolution is required to allow payment to the contract. Item 19 is a resolution that, given the state of emergency in connection with the COVID-19 pandemic continues to exist, would extend the temporary moratorium through and until March 31 of 2022. Item 20 is a resolution that would authorize the award of a professional services contract to the firm of Santarcangelo Law as special counsel for abandoned and vacant property matters for the period of January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022, in an amount not to exceed $130,000. Item 21 is a resolution that would authorize the award of a professional services contract to the firm of Riker Danzig Scherer, Highland and Peretti as conflict counsel and special litigation counsel for the period of January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2022 in an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Just a comment on this. I think in light of what we're going to consider in terms of a new township attorney and services in general, I think it would be helpful to me if we can get some sort of summary of the various law firms that we contract for or with and what those services are for. I know some change amounts every year, and sometimes we hire or don't hire particular firms, but I think an overview, if we can get that from someone, would be really helpful. I would just like to understand how much money we're spending per year on outside counsel and just a list of what those firms are and what they're specializing in. I think that'll help us in terms of how we're going to make a decision in terms of staffing this work going forward. I don't know what that looks like or how big of a project that is, but I think, the sooner the better, but understanding that could be complicated.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Item number 22 is a resolution that would authorize the award of a professional services contract to the firm of Genova Burns as labor and employment counsel and special litigation counsel for the period of calendar year 22 in an amount not to exceed $40,000. Item number 23 is a resolution that would authorize the execution of a shared services agreement with the County of Essex for the county to provide, by way of its transportation networking company, Easy Ride, streamlined access and service provision of rides to any destination within a 10-mile radius of Essex County's borders. The coordinated program is anticipated to increase the number of rides provided, improve transportation options, elevate riders' experience, and given the service area, ensure that no senior rides are denied. This one-year shared services agreement with the county in an amount not to exceed $123,000 would have 3 options for the township to renew the agreement, each for a one-year period.
Mr. Stafford, before we go on to the next page and break this up a little bit too, rather than wait till the very end, looking at the discussions that we've had, and certainly knowing that this issue, keeps moving forward, I know that we currently still are. I know some of the comments that we had earlier, but we still are in and under a state of emergency as declared by the state. With that dynamic, and as we heard from our callers, there are a lot of challenges that we still face. I know residents still face. There is the yin and yang around this issue. I think everybody gets it, but I think at this time we still are on the net positive side of trying to help people who are in a difficult time around rent increases with the rent freeze. We know that for the smaller, as was noted even with some of the callers, there are the exceptions there and exemptions, but specifically, the challenges remain, and we see new variants all the time. So with that, Mr. Stafford, I'm going to move at this juncture item 19, which is a resolution to extend the rent freeze until March 31st, 2022, and I so move.
I second that.
It's moved and seconded. Questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
While I wanted to figure out if there was a way of having any other version of this going forward, as the question's been called, I'll vote to support it.
yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Russo,
There's no other alternative but to keep helping those until we get rent control. If we have rent control, then we won't need a freeze, as I said. So let's get rent control. Yes.
thank you. Counselor Schlager,
I have to say that I'm very torn about this. I'm really torn. On one hand, I do not appreciate the threats that we get week after week from Mr. Simoncini in particular. It's very upsetting to me personally. But I also really feel for the small landlords that have called in, many who live in the second ward. I have a very large area of my ward in the Frog Hollow section of small landlords who have 2-family houses and 3-family houses, and they are suffering. I believe them when they call and they say that. I believe them, and they're my constituents. So I am very torn on this. I wasn't ready to vote tonight because I thought we were voting next week. So I'm a little surprised by this vote. So I don't, I'm surprised. So I'm going to support it and say yes, but I really feel for the small landlords, and not all of them are big, greedy landlords as some people make them out to be. I really feel that there are good people out there and good landlords, and I feel really bad for them.
Counselor Yacovelis?
Yeah, sorry, I was surprised by this as well, so I would have made my comments at the beginning. Look, I was a renter for 37 of my 42 years of life, so I get it and I feel the pain. But I'm also a numbers person, and we have inflation over 5%, employment's below 5%. Currently, any adult in the United States qualifying with a child is receiving $300 a month in additional relief. So we have to look at the economic circumstances and what's good for the town as a whole. And I think there's only so much, we can or should, frankly, meddle with some of this stuff. I think at some point you have to let the market make a determination here. I'm concerned that this is, at this point, even legal. And I'm very concerned that it'll be challenged in court. And I don't think we have a very good track record on these issues in court, frankly. So I'm not taking a side here on landlords versus tenants. I've been a tenant, like I said. I've worked for the Office of Rent Administration. I just get concerned by us, dragging this out, I think, too long. And with all of those numbers that I just cited, we're one of the best unemployment numbers, schools back full time, everyone is hiring, people can't find people to work at their restaurants or stores. The economy is very healthy. I understand some people are hurting, but I also don't think it's our responsibility to keep taking money from some people to give to others. And that, we ought to be looking at our job, I think, frankly, is to incentivize and enable construction of affordable housing, helping figure out how we get more affordable housing in town, and pursuing rent control. Yes, because I think that's important to have a cap in the town, but having a rent freeze go on and on and on with inflation where it's at is alarming to me, when you also have employment and all the other numbers as I cited. So, and I also have to stick to my promise, which is what I said in October, which was that I wouldn't vote for another extension if the economic conditions continue to improve. So my heart breaks for tenants who are struggling, and I want to figure out other ways that we can help them, including rent control. But on this, I'm a no. So no.
Thank you. Mayor Spiller? Mayor, you're muted.
There's always the appropriate time for forgetting to unmute yourself, Madam Clerk. Thank you for helping me on that. I'll simply say this. We are still, under a state of emergency, which is a huge piece right here. I absolutely hear the concerns around small landlords. As a reminder to all of my colleagues too, this moratorium exempts units and properties that are owner occupied with no more than one additional. Rental units additionally that have any regulation under the federal law those that have based on functional household income and other pieces, and hotel units, of course, which is a lot. So the small landlord, certainly Councilman Schlager's, you note a concern that I would have too, and I think a lot of that is covered there. But at the end of the day, when you still are in the middle of a pandemic and people are still facing the challenges that they do, I get it's a balancing act. We all have to do it. But I will come down on the side of those struggling to pay their rents and still having a hard time doing so. We see this impacting people every day, which is why we still see so many of the challenges that we see nationwide and globally in addressing this issue. So I'm with the people struggling to pay their rents at this time, and I'm a yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 24 would be a resolution that would, in an effort to comply with the Essex County Community Development Program Cooperation Agreement, appoint 2 representatives to the Community Development Representatives Committee, Councilor David Cummings, and Planning and Community Development Director Janice Talley. The Township's Office of Human Resources requires the services of medical professionals to perform pre-employment physicals, stress testing, and other employment-related medical services. Item 25 is a resolution that would authorize the execution of a contract for calendar year 2022 in an amount not to exceed $19,000 to Occupational Health Centers of New Jersey for those medical services. Items 26 through 35 inclusive would be resolutions that would authorize the placement of municipal liens on certain and specific properties in town. More particularly, these liens are the result of the township's efforts to manage vacant properties. Each lien consists of the actual cost for a contractor to perform work at the specific property, a charge for the township's special counsel to prepare the lien, and an administrative service fee for the township's work in handling the matter. Each resolution has attached to it a certification regarding the work performed and the lien specifics. And Mayor, that's all I have. I'm sorry, that's not all I have. There was an added item late. I apologize. Item 36 would be a resolution creating the Landlord Tenant Advisory Committee. My apologies.
Hey, Mayor, may I speak to this? This is the first step of Lori and I's effort to bring forth a process in which we clearly state our commissions and committees, and we felt that this one elevated because of the need, similar to conversations we've had with rent control and everything. And so we just wanted to get this done so that we can get this started, and then we can continue our work with the other commissions and committees as we stated. Oh man, I can't even remember when we had that first meeting. But Lori, I appreciate the work that you've done on this with me. And I think this is a good start to a foundation that I think we need to build across. So I just want to thank you, Gina. Thank for your late help on this. I know we put it on you at a time that, he's like, oh, wow, what is this? And Angelise and Tim for kind of shepherding this through as it went through several iterations to get to where we finally feel comfortable that it was good to present to the council.
And if I may, I'll thank Councilor Cummings again for the collaboration there. But should Mr. Scott, Ms. Malloy be still in attendance at the meeting, understand that we wanted to move this forward. We will be actually looking for you to have some conversation and if there's any feedback by way of our vision here. And we think this was striking the right balance of the community's needs and the expertise that's been demonstrated historically. So we'll pick up from there. Thank you.
Yeah. Any
So
other comments?
that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that from everybody. And, Mr. Stafford, I'll give you a little applause for tonight's. That's a lot of preview items that you had to go to there. So thank you very much for your work and having all the backup and information ready. I know the scramble to make sure everything's prepared for us and get us all the information we need. So thank you there. With that, I am going to move around for comments from my colleagues. But before I do, Mr. Stafford, do you have anything further?
Just one thing, Mayor, briefly. The County of Essex will hold a holiday food distribution event. Essex County Executive Joseph DiVincenzo and the Board of County Commissioners will hold that holiday emergency food distribution event on Tuesday, December 21 at Essex County's Weequahic Park. 1,000 turkeys and holiday dinner boxes will be distributed. Directions to access the emergency food distribution event can be found on our website. A blast went out earlier this morning, and certainly any questions can be posed to the County Executive's Office, 973-621-4400. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Deputy Manager.
Just one thing, Mayor. 80 years ago today was the first salvo of World War II. And I just want to say God bless to all those young men, 18 and 19-year-old kids, who dropped what they were doing and decided to serve their country. They were indeed the greatest generation, and I just want to pay them homage at this point. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
No comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Town Attorney.
No.
Thank you for your very concise legal speak there. Yes, thank you. Moving through, Mr. Deputy Mayor, please start there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, Mr. Vito has put the pressure on me because I'm going to be a little bit longer. Just a couple of things here real quick. As we had mentioned, the 100 Club dinner, I know many of us attended last week. Two great honorees, really a great organization that was set up so many years ago for such a good cause. Also was at the tree lighting in Upper Montclair Village at St. James. Got a great turnout. I know some of you were there as well. That was another great thing to see everybody out and about, and the kids with the candy canes and what have you. Also, the ribbon cutting that was held last Saturday for the dry goods refillery on Bellevue Avenue in Upper Montclair. I wish them much success, many years of success. I echo Mr. Scantlebury's comments about the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor and all those men and women who served so gallantly throughout the years. And a really good a thing that occurred at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church last week. They opened the doors again. It was full capacity, and they celebrated their first mass, and the church is reopened officially. So kudos to all those who work so hard to effectuate that and to get the church open again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Let's go with Councilwoman Schlager.
I have nothing to say.
Councilwoman Schlager is in the running along the lines with our township attorney then. Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Thank you. I'll find something to share. Similarly, as mentioned by, I guess, Mr. Herlock, we have just enjoyed the opportunity with the holidays, with Small Business Saturday, to find opportunities for people coming together in our town, and that's some of the best of what we do. There was a very festive and engaging Hanukkah event. I happened to miss the lighting of that, but I got there for the music. Ribbon cuttings, it's been very sort of encouraging and fortifying to see so much resilience in the town as we're making our way back in so many different ways. And as we're, into December, just all of the holidays, and it's a time for, the best of us. And, so much of the work that we do through the town, through whether they're nonprofits or through houses of worship, we have so many different partners we turn to and rely upon. Actually, another thing that was through an interfaith clergy group was it was an event marking Trans Day. Peter, I'm sorry if I'm getting it, the actual title of the event, and nonetheless, that was a very meaningful opportunity to be learning about those whose lives have been lost for just being queer, trans people, and they were given proper tribute in a sense, not just their names, but a little bit about them that we all heard that night. So each thing we do that breaks down some of the barriers, things we don't know as much about, I think we're just enriching ourselves, and I encourage, the community to take part in those things as well. Some of the other big things that are upon us, and, reference has been made in some ways. We need to hire a township attorney. I know that there are, and I don't know if we can have any small conversation at this time, just to say if there's a consensus that we should be engaging. My view is that we should hopefully find an interim township attorney who would be short-term, and that would give us the appropriate time to find a suitable person who would serve our town as an attorney in the robust kind of ways that we need those services. And very grateful that Ms. DeVito has joined the staff. And thank you for serving in ways that you hadn't necessarily anticipated. None of us certainly did. But very appreciative that you are here, and hope to make your service, call upon me, call upon others, as we can be helpful to you as you do the work that's before you. So I don't know if there's any sense of a consensus on this, or how we want to work in smaller groups to navigate this kind of question, but I know it's our hire in a sense that we have to figure that out. So I do want to invite, whether it's a conversation here or Mayor, I would look to you to help structure how you want to take that forward again. The other thing, and we can come back to it, but the other thing I just want to say is with regard to the library. So it was my takeaway, and I think that of 4 other members of this body, that the Municipal Services Committee sort of made present its expectation that we also had a vested interest in understanding this relationship with the library, as it is a primary municipal service, and maybe there's dual jurisdiction, and we respected the fact that it started with finance. But at this time, I thought we had made clear, again, a majority of us, that it was something that some subset of us still were going to meet, and that meeting is to take place December 14th. And we were to hear from the various parties, including our own consultants, and we were not yet having that meeting when we learned that, a new document that had been developed by our consultant was, and with whomever else, I really haven't had that much time to learn about it myself today, but anyway, I understand that the library received a document, and I just find myself surprised that wasn't what I took away. So clearly there was some difference of understanding at the end of the last meeting. I don't know if we have to go on the record in any way at this time to indicate that there are 4 of us who wish to have the opportunity to have a fuller review by all the members of the council before anything would be finalized. And I'm putting that out there for anybody else to react to.
I do think it's important to understand how it's been presented to the library at this point. Like, was it given to them and saying, here's something for you to react to, we'd like your response? Or was it saying, this is the government's proposal for an agreement?
I think, as discussed in our internal emails, this process was discussed, and I know in conversation or email with Joanne McCullough that Peter Coyle shared the document with them. You guys got the document today or last night, I don't know, but the bottom line is the process that we asked about going forward is what we're doing. You guys are reviewing, they are reviewing. You have a chance to make suggestions, they have a chance to make suggestions, and we hopefully can come up with something that is workable for both parties. But I also share, as I did to all of you, that you make sure that you read the correspondence that was shared with us from Ms. Rao, which gives a very good timeline of why we're in the position we're in and why decisions were made. And as I said to you all, it's really, really something that I think is an example of us getting out of the weeds and not really finding the time to understand that when we do things, they're not done to keep anyone out of the process. They're simply done to move the chains. And in this case, I repeat, we made it very clear that everyone was going to get a copy of Mr. Benecke's revised document and have a chance to look at it. And I don't see anything that's changed that other than Mr. Coyle received it before counselors. So if anybody has a problem with that, it's a problem that you're going to have, because the bottom line is everyone has the document and time to review it before the December 14th meeting, when that was something that was discussed to get this all to you, which happened.
Okay, as this will be my comments, I have been at my other professional job all day. I saw that something had come through and I was made aware that that was delivered. So I have not read any of the emails to which you're referring, Counselor. What I am talking about is if there was the will of 4 members of this body to say that we wanted to be in the process, then I think it was potentially out of order that it went to the library before we all had a chance to give input. That's my point. So if we need to take a show of hands to show there are 4 people who feel that way, then I don't know what it takes to actually have the deference shift, that it doesn't have to have been the way you just described, even though that is what happened. I think
And that's
we
my
could have
point.
been, excuse me, no,
But
please.
that's my point.
No,
We
no,
said
David,
this was what we
please,
were
no,
gonna
I'm
do,
sorry, do not
and that's what
interrupt.
you did. And
Hold
so
on a
Excuse
second.
me.
it's gotten out of hand.
Hold on a
Period.
second. Let's let one person speak at a time. All right. So
Okay.
as chair in this, appreciate the passions with this, and everybody is entitled to opinions and views on the different pieces. Let's go down the line and just express them in the cordial manner we usually do. Councilwoman, would you like to finish your remarks during your piece here?
Thank you. And I will say, as a chronic interrupter, I listen by talking sometimes. I really do my best sitting here to, wait my turn, and I have questions, I ask them, I appreciate their answer, but I guess I'm going to ask that of others, because it just feels like we have to be able to say our piece. And then obviously I want to hear what the reactions may be. I don't know if we need to actually have 4 members of this body raise their hands to say we expect to have seen, and that going forward on this issue and others that I think, there's a matter of efficiency of working through committees. I think you'll understand that finance can touch just about everything. And so if we're going to have everything run through finance and not have the opportunity to be heard by those who have substance related committees, then we are not allowing for the breadth of thoughts, opinions, viewpoints, perspectives, and everything else to be factored. And then, yes, we can play catch up and then try and scramble before the next meeting, but I don't find that to be terribly workable in some regards. I understand there's an efficiency about working in committees of 3, because of course, the public should know we don't work with more than 3 outside of the public. And so therefore, we're beholden to a structure, or that's how we're given a structure. It doesn't actually, we aren't beholden to it, but it is the one in operation. So where it was flagged that this was a matter of easily joint jurisdiction, I'm not even saying it's not a finance matter. I understand why you all were touching it. I am asking for the deference that if it's a matter such as the library, which is, a flagship municipal service, if we have to say it that way, then it should have been given to the Municipal Services Committee to review whatever it is you all developed, if you wanted us to see something, and that would go before it goes to the intended party. That's what I'm referencing and requesting going forward. And, we'll have to figure this out going forward, but I am trying to explain that the mayor may have concluded in a way that I heard something different. So perhaps the manager did exactly what the mayor summarized at the end, and that's what Councilor Cummings may be speaking about. But there was a clear expression by at least 4 of us that we saw it a different way and wanted the opportunity for input and have a meeting set up on December 14th to affect that purpose. So that this would come out before the meeting just feels a little bit, it was a little confounding. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And just to address some of your pieces too, I not hearing too much as much as the passions there of you and Councilman Cummings saying that much different, just coming at it from different perspectives. In this sense, what you just said, the opportunity for input, everything that is the document. When you say come up with, as Mr. Beneke came up with the last one, he's come up with this one. The request at the last meeting was for everybody to review that, right? That's distributed through his through the manager's action for the library board, who I know we're waiting for our counter, of what he came up with. And also, of course, there was council members who set up that decided they want to meet. All that's appropriate, and I know part of the discussion that people have been having, but in terms of officially where we have a role to say we're good with something or not good with something, or if it's a representation of the council, is only after we are presented with something. In any instances of negotiation or anything else, hate to put it back, I'm sure he loves it, but the only one that is technically doing any of that is Mr. Stafford. He is the manager. He does that. We then are presented with whatever information that is, whether he's negotiating a contract with our unions in town, whether he's through our financial advisor providing a document like this, a financial agreement, or whatever it may be. It is something we then consider and can vote up or down on for sure. Certainly our subcommittees are all there to provide feedback and guidance in some direction, et cetera. But as our form of government exists, that is the proper process in terms of it's the manager who would engage in negotiations or discussions around these pieces. I think, and kudos to Mr. Stafford for constantly trying to solicit, I think, input and feedback and understanding of what we're hearing and saying and seeing from the community, and often incorporates that. I think that what I'm hearing from you and Councilman Cummings is really not that different, except is this the sharing, or was the sharing supposed to be after you had a conversation with them first, or whatnot? But officially putting something forward to negotiate or anything like that would technically come from Mr. Stafford or Mr. Scantlebury or something along those lines. We would then have the opportunity to say yay or nay. So there's no kind of agreement or anything else until we do that part of the process. All right, moving to next is Councilman Cummings. I believe your turn.
Bob has something to say.
Yeah, I just want to ask if Councilor Price Abrams thinks that we should have some sort of a decision made before this is submitted. It's already been submitted to the library, right? I saw what was written. It's not too much different than what I saw before. I said I had some problems or questions about it because there's one phrase there that says, even if they did what we want, we could still cut them. And then I read Marge's nice chronology that Councilor Schlager was asking for, and at the end it says something that confuses me because it says she was told not to give them any money until they sign something. It's like, you sign this. I mean, is that like, I remember, the appeasement at Munich thing, Britain signed something or Hitler signed something and we think we're never going to have a war. We've got like a war over this. So I know the mayor's trying to keep everybody working together. That's great. But I took myself out of it because I knew Councilor Schlager, Councilor Iacobellis, and Councilor Price Abrams wanted to meet. And I said, okay, well, I'll stay aside. But then she's making a point, Councilor Price Abrams, that we have a services committee, which has a lot of work to do with a lot of groups in town, seniors, civil rights, handicapped, disabled. And this is one thing maybe we ought to be looking at, or maybe we shouldn't be looking at, but certainly finance only, which is just money, how we spend money, how we appropriate money, shouldn't be the only criteria or shouldn't be the only committee that's got the power over what we do. If everybody's up in arms about the library, good thing we settled the leaf blower thing yesterday, didn't we? So if we have all these people still calling in about the library and upset about it, shouldn't we do something to resolve that? I think that Councilor Price Abrams is looking for something to be done here. I guess I'm using up my time for my comments, but I think that I'm just baffled by what we're doing or not doing.
I'm not really sure I'm understanding that. My understanding is there is supposed to be a meeting. I think there still is. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
With the three that we talked about, right? So
Yeah.
that is part of right. This is the resolution process that we described last time, a revamping. And again, we could all go back, whatever. It's a revamping of the agreement. subcommittee, not a formal committee, but 3 council members to go and meet, and also a timeline of events. Those were the things that were requested at the last meeting.
Let's speak plainly for a second, okay? Why, when we know that this is a contentious issue and it was a hotly debated issue, why would the township send a version of the agreement, a revised agreement, to the library when a majority of the council does not support that? Why would we do that? That doesn't make any sense.
So Peter, I want everyone to go back to the last meeting where we said we was going to share this document with everyone, including the library. That's all I'm saying. That's what we said we were going to do. And then you all would have a chance to make your revisions or conversations. The library would have a chance to go back and go through its revisions and changes. That's what we said we were going to do. And now it's my opinion that because the library got this before you all, if it had been reversed and Tim had shared it with you all first and then sent it to the library, I don't think we're having this conversation. Because we agreed that both of them.
That's exactly right. We wouldn't.
That's right. We wouldn't be having this conversation because we want to see it first.
But we agreed.
We want to see it first. We're left out. We're left out, David. I'm just sorry, David. We're left out.
Stop. Would you? When I inadvertently cut her off, I'm saying we agreed we were going to share it with everyone. That's what we said we were going to do, and that's what we did. Except the manager sent it to Mr. Coyle before you all, and then sent it to you. Nothing is transferred in 24 hours, Bob. It's not like he sent it to him last week and then sent it to you guys this week. He sent it when he received it. That's the other thing. Beneke took some time to make the revisions, shared it with him. And then he sent it to the people who said we were going to get it in time for your December 14th meeting and time for the library to send it off to their lawyers to review so that when you all do meet, hopefully you both will have consensus on what changes you all agreed need to be a part of it. And this thing about the finance committee running everything, there is nothing the finance committee is running that I know of that everyone on here is not a part of. It's that simple. So let's get that off the table, but at least agree that, does everyone here have the library agreement in front of them or in their queue, in their emails?
I haven't had the opportunity to look.
Well, Tim, you sent it to all the counselors, correct?
I did.
Okay,
We
so
all have it. The point is being able to react to it or give our thoughts about it before it gets transmitted to the library. That was inappropriate, in my opinion. We should have been
that's not what
consulted.
we said. But Peter, again, we said we were going to send it to both.
It doesn't make sense.
We never said we were going to send it to the council and then send that to the library. We never said that. Now,
Right.
Is that what you said that's what you believe we said?
So when the library receives something from the township manager, what are they not thinking that that's the position of the government when they're receiving that document?
No, in this particular case, I believe because we said we were going to share with them and give them the opportunity to review it and get back to us their revisions, that's not saying this is the government body's response because you all have the meeting set up on December 14th to discuss it with them. I mean, this is like really, we're going around the bush on something that we act like 2 weeks ago, we all did not say this was going to happen. And again, like you just said, if Tim had sent it to you all first and then sent it to Peter Coyle today, we wouldn't be having this discussion. It wouldn't bother you then.
Well, I'm not even sure when, because I don't even know. What's the difference? When did you send to them and when did you send to everybody?
I think
Mr.
that's not
Stafford?
the issue, which order the emails were sent in. That's David's maybe
But some
what we
people,
mean.
with all due respect, Councilwoman, I didn't interrupt you. I did not hear. I've heard from a lot of people that the order is the issue. I've heard Councilman Cummings say it, and then a lot of people jumped in and said that is exactly the issue. So I'm asking Mr. Stafford, when was the email sent to either group, body, whatever?
I sent the email to Mr. Coyle yesterday, Monday the 6th at 9:11, and to the governing body this morning at 11:30.
Yeah, so about 24 hours. difference? About. Okay.
What Peter's concern, if I'm hearing correct, is when we sent this to the library, there could be a perception that this was the feeling of the entire government body.
Or a
Well, I
majority.
don't really say
Or a
comments. I
majority.
would just say
Okay.
let's
But
let everyone give their remarks of what they're feeling on it. I hear it, and it's a natural tendency to do, but everyone can make their cases. Let's have everyone make their cases. As I've said in the other one, in the email I sent on it, my understanding of the specific statements of the last meeting, it would be a revised copy shared out that modified what it is. There would be a meeting of 3 counselors with the library board and with members of the library board, and we would have a sharing out of a timeline. Those are the 3 things that I remember from the meeting, and that's, I believe, what has happened here or attempted to happen here. So, you know, what the perceptions, some people thinking are right in line or off a little, I do think that's the intent, and I think that is hopefully in some way what's happened. I don't think any of that precludes those 3 things from happening. You know, of course, people have perceptions. I can't dispute that, of course. Mr. Stafford, are you looking to add something to this?
I just wanted to say one thing with respect to the contemplated interpretation of it, the email coming or the revised agreement coming from the governing body as a whole. My email specifically said, at the direction of the governing body's finance committee, attached, please find, et cetera, et cetera. So I mean, if one read the email on that side, Mr. Coyle, et cetera, and to whomever he forwarded, that they would not interpret that.
That's from the body. Okay.
Can
All
I
right.
say something again? I hate to prolong
Councilman.
this because I don't get the chance to say the
Let's
things
do,
I wanted to say about other things. But when I just got that, I saw it maybe about 2 o'clock today. I said, gee, this has gone already to the library. I mean, I didn't have any input, but I wasn't really going to have part of that. I'm not going to be part of that committee. But I immediately was concerned for my 3 colleagues, Robin Schlager, Lloyd Price Abrams, and Peter Yacovello. So I know we're going to be trying to meet before this got out of hand again. Okay, the whole thing was, because I think maybe 4 of us don't even think we should have an agreement. I'm not even sure what is this agreement. I question the whole agreement. I've never seen in 22 years that there's ever been an agreement. So now I think it's got a little shorter time span when I read it, but it still has a provision in it that says, even if the library does all these things, we don't have to give them any money or something. It's the strangest agreement I've ever seen. I don't know why Mr. Beneke is writing this and then we don't have any input on it before it goes. He does a fine job on finances, but I don't think that he runs the town. He wasn't elected by anybody. You know, I think there's a problem with our form of government. The people who are elected, I got 5,000 votes. The mayor got 5,400 votes. Peter got 5,500 votes. A lot of people voted for us. They want us to do something. Sometimes we're able to persuade, as we did over the weekend on the leaf blower. I was persuasive. But who really runs this government? Not us. And yet we get the calls and the blame from the constituents about the library, about the leaf blowers, about all these issues that we don't seem to have control over. And then when you say that the finance committee directed you to send it over, well, there's the whole problem. The finance committee is telling the manager to do something that the rest of us don't have any input on. It's as simple as that. Form of government. We need to change it. That's all.
Councilwoman Schlager.
If I could just say, I think, I'm not speaking for everybody, just for myself, but I would think that all of us here tonight ultimately wants what's best for the library. And I think that we could have these discussions offline, maybe, and if we could just move on and make a decision that on the 14th, when we have this meeting, that the document that was presented yesterday or today, it's a working document. And maybe on the 14th, we could discuss it with the library board that we meet with and whomever else is going to be there, along with Councilman Yacovello and Councilwoman Price Abrams. And I think perhaps we can look at it that way, that it's a working document and we all, at the end of the day, wants what's best for the library.
Councilwoman Schlager, you've married everything perfectly. So I am going to leave it with you, with you having the last word on that issue. With that, three. Councilman Cummings, did you want to give council comments or
Yes,
we're good?
yes. I have a
Oh,
lot to
okay,
say.
okay. All right.
First, the tree lighting on Church Street was awesome. Lots of people there, good fun. It was great to be there with you guys. As we head into the holiday season, I think it'll be a good time to sit back and enjoy and kind of get back to some jovial and good times. The 100 Club meeting, I did enjoy attending that. I was very happy to see Kim Nelson there, who I think is the model of what a human or the school resource officer should be. Her efforts in that position were just tremendous. I know all of my children really respect her and had great times with all the programs she started. And she's just a wonderful person. I want to talk about the loss of Dr. Davis. That was a man who was the epitome of class as well as decorum, and is a tremendous loss. And we've lost a lot of people this last couple of years. And Dr. Davis's untimely death is one that I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge it tonight. I know the service is going to be on December 17th at Christ Church's Rockaway location. I think everyone who can be there should be there to honor a man who, as not just a businessman, a Fourth Ward South End business owner, but also someone who did a lot for this community in other areas of town. He did not restrict himself to one location nor to one person or people. He was just epitome of a class act and someone who I wish all business owners took the time to take not only the pride in their business, but also to know that their business is a reflection of the community. And so to his young son, Al, and his wife, my condolences. His son and my daughter are the same grade. She's been in touch with him, at school. So it's just a really tough loss for us in Montclair. And I also want to make sure that, and he's had this from me, that Mr. Scott and the public knows that I don't think anyone on this council um, agrees with what was said to him and others who were on that elevator. And I think that an apology was more than warranted. I've said to Mr. Scott personally that I feel for him. I think he and Deirdre actually and Mr. Scott handled it in a proper way. I appreciate the words from the clergy to task us with making sure that our employees understand that you are a reflection of the community. So, I don't want to get away from this meeting without acknowledging that. But at the end of the day, I do think that it's very important that Montclair know that while we just had this robust discussion, when I get off this call or this meeting, I'm not taking anything personal from any of you. I just think we had a disagreement on a process that happens. There's nothing personal with me, but I do know we do have a lot of work to get done. And as this year closes out, I am hopeful that 2022 is nothing like the last 6 months because we have a lot of work to get done. And in this process of what we're doing, I don't think we'll get anything accomplished. So I challenge everyone on here to take real stock of what is it that we want to do? Do we want to work together? Do we want to promote different things? What is the real goal of this council? And I hope it's to do things that the township needs across all wards, and we take that seriously because we really, when we get to these things and it gets into this divisiveness, nothing gets done. So I challenge myself and I challenge all of you to take that on, and hopefully 2022 will be a new year and a better year. And I apologize for the delay in that time period or the time that I've taken, but tonight was just something that I feel it was a little bit got off the rails. So thank you, Mayor, for that time.
Thank you, Councilman Cummings. And certainly while I would maybe choose to hold anything against you. I can't, because those little holiday lights necklaces that you gave my son at the Christmas lighting, he's been running around the house with those like 24/7, including trying to go to bed with them on. So, thank you for that. Appreciate it. But happy holidays, my friend. Let's go to next. Councilman Schlager, I see your hand go up. Did you
I'm sorry. Did we go around? I'll go at the end. I'm sorry. Did everybody speak?
Oh, did I not call? Did I not call on you? I thought I did.
Yes, you did. And I
Oh.
said I had nothing to say, but I do
Yeah.
now have something to say.
Okay. All right. I was like, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, Councilwoman.
Yeah.
I said I could have sworn you didn't, but okay. Okay, fair. Yes, Councilwoman, please.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. I want to respectfully ask the Mayor and my colleagues, and if Mr. Stafford can opine, I would like to revisit my vote that I just had a little while ago on the rent freeze.
I believe under Robert's rules, one can change one's vote. So if you do want to change, or if one does want to change one's vote, briefly explain the reason why you're changing your vote and then what your vote would be.
Does that, just to put it to the test, does that sound correct, Madam Attorney? You're stepping in the role here.
Yes, I would agree. As long as no one objects, I would agree.
Okay, so as chair, let me ask, does anyone object?
My only question would be, that has to be done before the end of this meeting. In other words, you can't do that next week.
Well,
or
she
next
sounds like she's
day.
trying to do it now. So my question
Right,
is,
that's
does
what I'm
anyone?
saying. The only stipulation would be before the meeting ends.
So my question is, does anyone object? Councilwoman, is that an objection? Councilwoman, I don't hear anybody objecting, so
Okay.
I think it sounds like you got to give a reason, and you can
Yes.
change your vote. Mhm.
Yes. My reason is that, like I said before, I was very torn between my vote because I feel for the landlords but I also feel for the tenants. And I was also very upset by the threats that certain people make when they call into our meetings. And I let my emotions get the best of me before when I was speaking. So I would like to change my vote because I am torn, and I also was a little surprised. I didn't know we were voting tonight, but that's so be it. That's what's before us, and I respect that. So given all of that, I would like to abstain.
Okay, so I have not heard without. So without objection, Madam Clerk, would you please note that as an abstention?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman. You bet.
And
You bet.
thank you all.
Now I'm going back to you have no more to say, right? Now your
No,
original
I
answer
don't,
holds. All right. Okay. Fair.
And I thank you all, my colleagues, for understanding. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're at a large. So Councilman Jacobus.
Thanks, Mayor. I do have one more thing on the library, and then I'll move on to my closing comments. And that is in the chronology report that the CFO provided to us. She ends it interestingly, and I would draw attention to the last meeting where we discussed this publicly. Her words are specifically, in quote, decision to initiate the forensic audit and the decision to withhold funding are made by the Finance Committee. There is no miscommunication or misunderstanding on my part. The instructions were clear. Do not pay until the agreement is signed. That's our CFO saying that to us in a memo. So that is a concern. So this library issue is not going to go away for a little while because the truth is still not being told. And I hate to have my comments start with this, but I just need to put that on the record. So now to pivot, I wanted to, I'm sorry, Gina, Mr. Vito, this is your first meeting, but I wanted to welcome you. She's not even on screen, but welcome, our new assistant town attorney. Normally meetings aren't this long and we don't have such ferocious debate, but it's also very healthy for our democracy to do it. And I think we do it with respect for each other, even though we have different opinions. But welcome to the party and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks. I wanted to just mention a couple things real quick that I've been a part of. Small Business Saturday was excellent. I was all over Montclair. I want to thank my friends at American Express again for shipping us Montclair. extra cases of tote bags that no other towns get. They're all begging and scrapping for bags, and we get extra cases. So appreciate our friends at American Express sending those to us. Those went over really well with the business districts all across town that I was able to help deliver them to. And thank you to most of you who were able to be there to kick off that event on Church Street. I did join Councilor Price Abrams at the Trans Night of Remembrance, remembering the 47 trans individuals in the United States who have been murdered this year up until this point. An alarming and concerning number, and that's just what we know about. There's so many violent acts against trans people that unfortunately don't get reported. Relatedly, I went down to Washington, D.C. last week on my own dime for LGBT Leaders Conference, and that afforded me the opportunity to meet with members of Congress, cabinet secretaries, state legislators, mayors, council members from across the country, members of parliament from Britain, members of various congressional and legislative bodies in South America, to basically engage in days of conversations, not just about LGBT issues, but all issues, and had the opportunity to speak with our U.S. Secretary of Education, members of U.S. House leadership, who asked me, frankly, how's all of that aid doing? In which I responded, what aid? And they, reminded me of the 4.4 million that we've got from the American Rescue Plan, in which I responded, thank you, but it was about 20% of what we needed last year. We can use a lot more. We talked about infrastructure. We talked about the need for that Hudson River Tunnel for all of our train stations in Montclair. We talked about complete streets and funding for bike lanes and funding for people with disabilities, for easier crossings and better signage around the town. So just really good conversations and opportunities with officials, like I said, across all levels of government. I was really proud to be able to be there and to represent our town, frankly, even if unofficially. I also want to thank PSE&G Institute of Sustainability Studies at Montclair State University for appointing me to the advisory board. I'm excited. They do a lot of really good work with a $500 million budget. I'm sorry, a $500,000 budget. I wish it was 500 million. $500,000 budget to pursue green initiatives around the state. And so lots of interesting things to affect there that I'm really excited about. Also want to thank Cub Scouts Troop 6 for having me in for a really important roundtable discussion with the Cub Scouts. My toughest questions yet. You'll want to know they specifically asked if we could cancel homework, cancel school on Fridays. But very sweetly and kindly, we're appreciative of all of us and our service during the pandemic. One of the kids saying, thank you for helping keep my family alive, which I found really, really touching. And that was thanks to all of us as a governing body. So just a reminder that what we all are doing has an impression on the youngest minds. And that was really, really touching to me. So all around, just a great couple of weeks being involved in so much and a part of so much with so many of you. So thank you.
All right, Councilman Russo.
Yes, Mayor, we referenced it before, but again, and the Montclair local has posted and a couple others posted. It was a wonderful service one time when we had a Veterans Day, and that's my father-in-law in the white coat, me as mayor, talking about Pearl Harbor survivors. We had Ben Steinberg there from Montclair. My father-in-law grew up in Newark, and he left when he died. He left me this Pearl Harbor survivors cap, and here's the side that says Pearl Harbor survivors. And there's only about 40 of those folks left. Last night on the news, they said there's about 40, many of them too old to even gather, at the site, Pearl Harbor. But that's, as Brian said, that was a great generation. My father-in-law died at 87, having gone to every meeting of the Pearl Harbor survivors, even went to the, the monument to Arizona and all. He traveled all over with these fellas. They were the people who, were there when this first started, that war that we hoped would end wars. And I just want to give a salute again to my wife's father, Anthony Sikora. I want to give my sympathy that we all express, I'm sure, to our former police chief, Tom Russo. No relation to me again, but Tom's daughter, Donna, passed. And there'll be some services this Saturday, I believe it is, this Saturday at St. Cashin's Church at 9:30. As long as our town attorney is still on, I'd like to make sure she got my memo about it's the Newark Bay Occidental Petroleum litigation. So there's something that's very serious that we have to deal with. The Second River Joint Meeting, which has 7 towns, including Montclair's neighbors, Newark, of course, East Orange, Bloomfield, Belleville, and Glen Ridge. We need to work together because there's a legal issue which could cost towns, municipalities quite a bit if we don't do the right thing. And I know that our law department's been on top of that. So Gina, please follow up. And then I'm going to a meeting next week. Maybe you could tell me what we've done so I could tell them what we've done. The attorney, Mr. Maliska, is from the Glen Ridge. He's the Glen Ridge town attorney, but he's the attorney for the Second River Joint Meeting with 7 towns. Also like to express my sympathy to Dr. Davis's family. People don't realize, but Dr. Davis was the first African-American to chair the State Board of Chiropractic. He was a chiropractor who Governor Florio, when I was working for the State Consumer Affairs Division, Governor Florio tapped him to be the head of the board that licenses chiropractors. And Dr. Davis did a tremendous job along with Priscilla Church from Montclair, who you know as a Board of Ed vice president, and Jay Church, her husband, who was the executive director of that board. But Dr. Davis chaired the board of several chiropractors and citizen members, licensing and overseeing that practice of chiropractic. And he was a great doctor who helped me many times with problems with arthritis. And we're going to miss him dearly. The state misses him from the work he did with Consumer Affairs. The town misses him from the Board of Ed. And most of all, his patients and neighbors and friends in Montclair and the South End are going to miss him. And terrific man who, as Councilor Cummings said, he just lit up everybody. He chaired that Montclair Martin Luther King scholarship breakfast every year. He's a great man. So Dr. Davis and your family will miss you. One last thing I want to say to Mr. Scott directly, that I apologize on behalf of our township. As some callers said, I just can't believe that anybody would make a joke about the worst thing that our country ever did, which is the Constitution saying people are not full people. You know, that is not a joke. That's a problem. Slavery was a problem. And discrimination and bias is still a problem. And as I spoke before about that young man who went out and shot people because he believed that they were bad because they were protesting in the Black Lives Matter movement, or, you know, the right-wing people keep screaming about Antifa has caused all these problems. Well, let me tell you something. The thousands of people who are at that January 6th riot, and, you know, they're rounding up a lot of them and accusing them, but we've just heard an analysis now that this entire thing is just a beginning. So, you know, forget us all as individuals getting elected or having titles or having happy life and power. I think the country's headed towards a dictatorship and fascism. We're going to know in about 9 or 10 months when the Congress election is held midterm. If, in fact, the Congress gets in the hands of the people who are doing really negative things, and I'm not talking about the history of the Republican Party, okay? I'm talking about the current people who are running things, that are obstructing everything. Just to get these few things done, the president can't get the votes to do them. And it's just good things to help people. What is wrong with having your dental, hearing, and eyesight included in Medicare? All other countries cover everybody for everything. There's what they like to refer to it as socialized medicine. All it is helping people provide health care as a right. All those accusations of socialism and communism and conspiracy and left wing and Antifa. I just want to see people who are getting older get help. That makes me a socialist. So I hope that people know that we're coming towards a very, very bad situation in the next few months. And there's people who want to do violence, and young people who think they can just pick up a gun and shoot people, and then they get away with it. So I'm sorry to bring such a somber note, but we're coming up on holidays. We just celebrated Hanukkah, and I wish everybody in that community a good, holiday, and all those who are going to celebrate Christmas, all those who celebrate New Year coming up. But it goes back to Pearl Harbor today, my father-in-law, and it goes forward to not having this country lose what we fought Hitler, and we fought Mussolini, and we fought the Nazis and the fascists in the 1940s, where we fought to have as a democracy and a government that the people control. And that's what I mentioned before. I had a comment that you might not have heard, but you'll hear it again. I really think our form of government in Montclair is not adequate to be responsive enough to the people who elect us. Thank you all. Thank you, Mayor. Good night.
All right, thank you. Certainly what I want to say today, first and foremost, is I want to thank Dr. Davis, first and foremost, an individual who, really has been committed to this town, was committed to this town for so long. Certainly his service on the Board of Ed was huge, but also, as was noted, and just know the conversations we'd have at scholarship breakfast or other pieces in terms of involvement in town, and certainly he'll be sorely missed. It's a loss for us as a township, and certainly wanted to offer my condolences, and just really sad. So wanted to start and acknowledge his passing, and acknowledge the loss that we're feeling as a community. I do also want to, note that we are in the holiday season, if you will, here, and I think a lot of things are happening in terms of, yes, we've kicked off for the holidays, shopping, right? Whether that's shop local, and great, we're able to shop in our local businesses and support them, which is wonderful. But as we saw with Thanksgiving, first and foremost, the ability for people to be able to get together and spend time as families is because people have done the right thing, gotten vaccinated if medically possible, gotten family members vaccinated, gone through what has been just such a difficult time with all the restrictions and challenges that we've all faced. Certainly, we still see them financially as a township. We still all see them as the impacts on our behaviors and other things that we can do, and still restricted in many ways. But because of all that coming together, and people, despite being fatigued by it all, doing the right thing, we saw some pieces of normalcy with a Thanksgiving, and now as we move into the holidays, we get to appreciate that time with family members, and I think that's more important than ever. So certainly, I also wish everybody a happy holidays, whether that's whether it's the fun we got with the menorah lighting, which was, I will say, a little bit of a short ladder for how high up we had to go. So I appreciate. I know a couple others who were there helped stabilize me as I got up there, because it was pretty high and pretty shaky there on that ladder. But it was nice to see everybody in another one of our gems that I think we've really put here in town, which is Seymour Street. Had the opportunity to do the ribbon cutting there with some of my colleagues, and to see that space opened up, activated for the arts, and used for things like the menorah lighting, I think is just a real testament to the work that has been getting done, is getting done. It's another piece that connects Montclair, whether that be west to east from our wonderful museum, moving through the different places in town that you want to walk and carry and get people moving. And of course, now through Seymour and beyond, and connected down to our eastern piece. You add that with our south end, our Watchung, our upper Montclair, it's really just a wonderful piece of the fabric of this township. So it's wonderful to see there. But really another example of being able to celebrate for the holidays and people coming together. For the tree lighting itself, another one, as I noted, and another big thank you to the Councilman Cummings. But wonderful to have Santa and Mrs. Claus make a special visit. That was appreciated. A big thank you to all of our public service folks who've been getting out there and setting things up, breaking them down, and making sure the area is clean, make sure the area is safe, giving Santa a ride, whatever it is, all doing a wonderful job. So we want to thank them and thank everybody who was out. Again, enjoying the stores that stayed open late, enjoying the festivities that we had on the street, and of course, watching the tree lighting that we had a chance to do there as well. So it is the holiday season, and I think we've got to all make sure we enjoy it. We've maybe during this pandemic had one upside of being able to spend time with families. If that's been the case for you, hopefully that's been an enjoyable opportunity. And I think in these holidays, we've got to appreciate that even more. We know how precious life is and how precious spending time with each other is. So I just want everybody to take that in as we move through the holidays, to enjoy each other and to really appreciate what the seasons are all about and the season is all about. So big thank you to everybody. Happy holidays. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed?
abstain. Good
I
night.
abstain. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.